the Concordant version of the Old Testament, copyright 2021 by the Concordant Publishing Concern. The Book of Exodus. Chapter 1. And these are the names of the sons of Israel coming to Egypt with Jacob their father. They came, each man with his household: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah; Issachar, Zebulun and Benjamin; Dan and Naphtali; Gad and Asher. All the souls, offspring from the thigh of Jacob, had become 75 souls. As for Joseph, he was in Egypt. Then Joseph died, and all his brothers, and all that generation. And the sons of Israel, they were fruitful, and were swarming and numerous, and very, very staunch. So the land was filling up with them. Then a new king rose over Egypt, who knew nothing about Joseph. He said to his people, "Behold, the people of the sons of Israel are more numerous and staunch than we. Do grant attention. Let us show ourselves wise as to them, lest they increase. And it come to be, if war should befall us, and they are added, even they, to those hating us, that they fight against us and ascend from the land. Hence they placed over them chiefs of tributary service, that they might humiliate them with their burdens. So they were building as provision cities for Pharaoh, Pithom, and Ramses. Yet just as they were humiliating them, so they multiplied, and so they breached forth. Hence they were irritated in view of the sons of Israel. So the Egyptians made the sons of Israel serve with rigor, and they embittered their lives with hard service in clay and in bricks, and with all service in the field, all their service which they served among them with rigor. Then the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of the first one was Shiphrah, and the name of the second Puah, and said, "In your midwifery for the Hebrew women, when you see them on the bracing stones, if it is a son, then you will put him to death, and if it is a daughter, then she will live." Yet the midwives feared the one, Elohim, and they did not act just as the king of Egypt had spoken to them, and they kept the boys alive. Then the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said to them, "For what reason did you do this thing and keep the boys alive?" Now the midwives said to Pharaoh, "The Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women, for they are livelier. Ere the midwife comes to them, they have already borne." Hence Elohim dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and were very staunch. So it came to be, because the midwives feared the one, Elohim, that he provided households for them. Then Pharaoh instructed all his people, saying, "Every son born to the Hebrews into the waterway shall you fling him, yet every daughter you shall keep alive." Chapter 2. A man of the house of Levi went and took as wife a daughter of Levi. The woman became pregnant and bore a son, and she saw him that he was a goodly child, so she secluded him 3 months. When she could no longer seclude him, then she took for him an ark of papyrus, daubed it with asphalt and with pitch, and placed the boy in it. Then she placed it in the weeds on the ridge of the waterway, and his sister stationed herself afar to know what might be done to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter descended to bathe at the waterway, while her maidens were walking on the side of the waterway. When she saw the ark in the midst of the weeds, she sent her maidservant and took it. She opened it and saw him, the boy, and behold, the lad was lamenting. She spared him and said, "This is one of the boys of the Hebrews." Then his sister said to the daughter of Pharaoh, "Shall I go and call for you a woman, a wet nurse from the Hebrews, that she may nurse the boy for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." So the damsel went and called the boy's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Have this boy go, and nurse him for me, and I shall give you your hire." So the woman took the boy and nursed him. When the boy was growing up, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She called his name Moses, and said, "Because I have removed him from the water." It came to be in those days, when Moses had grown up, that he went forth to his brothers and saw their burdens. He also saw an Egyptian man smiting a Hebrew man, one of his brothers. He faced this way and that, and saw that there was no one else. Then he smote the Egyptian and buried him in the sand. When he went forth on the second day, behold, 2 men, Hebrews, were striving with each other. So he said to the wicked one, "Why are you smiting your associate?" Yet he said, "Who appointed you as foreman and judge over us? Are you meaning to kill me, just as you killed the Egyptian?" Then Moses became fearful and said, "Surely the matter is known." When Pharaoh heard of this matter, he sought to kill Moses. So Moses ran away from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, where he sat by the well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came, drew out water, and filled the gutters to let their father's flock drink. But the shepherds came and drove them out. Yet Moses rose, saved them, and let their flock drink. When they came to Reuel, their father, he said, "For what reason did you hasten to come in today?" They said, "An Egyptian man, he rescued us from the hand of the shepherds, and moreover, he drew out water for us, and let the flock drink." Then he said to his daughters, "And where is he? Why is this that you have forsaken the man? Call him that he may eat bread." Hence Moses was disposed to dwell with the man. He gave Zipporah, his daughter, to Moses for a wife. When she bore a son, he called his name Gershom, for he said, "A sojourner have I become in a foreign land." In the course of these many days, it came to be that the king of Egypt died. Yet the sons of Israel sighed under the servitude and cried out, and their imploration ascended to the one, Elohim, out of the servitude. Elohim heard their moaning, and Elohim was mindful of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Elohim saw the sons of Israel and was realized by them. Chapter 3. As for Moses, he had become a shepherd of the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. Once he was leading the flock behind the wilderness and came to the mount of the one, Elohim, to Horeb. Then the messenger of Yahweh appeared to him in a blaze of fire from the midst of a thorn bush. So he stared, and behold, the thorn bush was consuming with fire, yet the thorn bush, it was not being devoured. Hence Moses said, "Let me withdraw, I pray, and discern this great sight, for what reason the thorn bush is not being consumed." When Yahweh saw that he withdrew to discern, Elohim called to him from the midst of the thorn bush and said, "Moses, Moses." So he answered, "Behold me." Then he said, "Do not come near hither. Drop off your sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing, this is ground of holiness." And he said, "I am the Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Jacob." Now Moses concealed his face, for he feared to look toward the one, Elohim. And Yahweh said, "I see, yea, see the humiliation of my people who are in Egypt. And I hear their crying because of the presence of their taskmasters, for I know their pains. I have descended to rescue them from the hand of Egypt, and to bring them up from that land to a land good and wide, to a land gushing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Perizzite, the Girgashite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite. And now, behold, the cry of the sons of Israel, it has come to me. And indeed, I have seen the oppression with which Egypt has been oppressing them. Now do go, I am sending you to Pharaoh. Bring forth my people, the sons of Israel, from Egypt. Yet Moses said to the one, Elohim, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the sons of Israel from Egypt? Then he said, I shall come to be with you, and this will be the sign for you that I have sent you. When you bring the people forth from Egypt, you shall serve the one, Elohim, on this mountain. Now Moses said to the one, Elohim, Behold, when I am coming to the sons of Israel, and I say to them, The Elohim of your fathers, he sends me to you, then they will say to me, What about his name? What shall I say to them? Then Elohim spoke to Moses, I shall come to be just as I am coming to be. And he said, Thus shall you say to the sons of Israel, I shall come to be. He has sent me to you. And Elohim said further to Moses, Thus shall you say to the sons of Israel, Yahweh, the Elohim of your fathers, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Jacob, he has sent me to you. This is my name for the eon, and this the remembrance of me for generation after generation. Go, and you will gather the elders of the sons of Israel, and say to them, Yahweh, the Elohim of your fathers, he appeared to me, the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I have noticed, yea, noticed you, and what is being done to you in Egypt. Hence I am saying that I shall bring you up from the humiliation of Egypt to the land of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Perizzite, the Girgashite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, to a land gushing with milk and honey. Then they will hearken to your voice, and you will enter, you and the elders of Israel, to the king of Egypt, and you will say to him, Yahweh, the Elohim of the Hebrews, he has met with us. So now we pray, let us go a way of 3 days into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to Yahweh our Elohim. Yet I know that the king of Egypt shall not give you leave to go, yea, not even by a steadfast hand. Hence I will put forth my hand, and smite Egypt, with all my marvels which I shall do within it, and afterward he shall dismiss you. And I will give this people grace in the eyes of the Egyptians. It will come to be that when you are going, you shall not go empty-handed, for each woman will ask of her neighbor, and of her who sojourns in her house, for articles of silver and articles of gold and raiments. And you will place them on your sons and on your daughters, and you will despoil the Egyptians. Chapter 4. Yet Moses answered and said, Behold, they shall not believe me, nor shall they hearken to my voice, for they shall say, Yahweh has not appeared to you. Now Yahweh said to him, What is this in your hand? And he answered, A rod. Then he said, Fling it to the earth. So he flung it to the earth, and it became a serpent. And Moses fled from its presence. Then Yahweh said to Moses, Put forth your hand and take hold of its tail. So he put forth his hand and held fast to it, and it became a rod in his palm, that they may believe that Yahweh, the Elohim of their fathers, appeared to you, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Jacob. And Yahweh said to him further, Now bring your hand into your bosom. So he brought his hand into his bosom, and brought it forth from his bosom, and behold, his hand was leprous as snow. Then he said, Restore your hand to your bosom. So he restored his hand to his bosom, and brought it forth from his bosom, and behold, it was restored like his other flesh. Hence it will come to be, should they not believe you, nor hearken to the voice of the first sign, they may believe the voice of the latter sign. Yet it will come to be, even should they not believe these 2 signs, nor hearken to your voice, then you will take some of the water of the waterway, and pour it out on the dry ground. And the waters which you are taking from the waterway will come to be, yea, will come to be blood on the dry ground. Then Moses said to Yahweh, O my Lord, I am no man of words either heretofore indeed, or since you spoke to your servant, for I am heavy of mouth and heavy of tongue. Yahweh said to him, Who made the mouth for a human, or who is making one mute or deaf, or having unclosed eyes or blind? Is it not I, Yahweh? And now go, and I shall come to be with your mouth, and I will direct you what you shall speak. Yet he said, O my Lord, send, I pray, by another whom you should send. Then the anger of Yahweh grew hot against Moses, and he said, Is there not Aaron, the Levite, your brother? I know that he can speak, yea, speak. And moreover, behold, he is coming forth to meet you, and he will see you and rejoice in his heart. You will speak to him and place the words in his mouth, and I shall come to be with your mouth and with his mouth, and I will direct both of you as to what you shall do. So he will speak for you to the people. It will come to be that he shall become a mouth for you, and you shall become an Elohim for him. And this rod shall you take in your hand, with which you shall do the signs. Then Moses went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, Let me go, I pray, and return to my brothers who are in Egypt, and let me see whether they are still alive. And Jethro said to Moses, Go in peace. Then Yahweh said to Moses in Midian, Go, return to Egypt, for all the men who were seeking your soul have died. So Moses took his wife and his sons and let them ride on the donkey and returned to the land of Egypt. Moses also took the rod of the one, Elohim, in his hand. And Yahweh said to Moses, When you go to return to Egypt, see to all the miracles which I place in your hand, that you do them before Pharaoh. Yet I shall make his heart steadfast, and he shall not dismiss the people. So you will say to Pharaoh, Thus says Yahweh, My son, my firstborn, is Israel. And I am saying to you, Dismiss my son that he may serve me. Yet should you refuse to dismiss him, behold, I shall be killing your son, your firstborn." It came to be on the way, in the lodging, that a messenger of Yahweh encountered him and sought to put him to death. So Zipporah took a chert knife and cut off the foreskin of her son and touched it to his feet and said, "Because one of blood affinity are you to me." And he slacked off from him. Then it was that she said, "Blood affinity," referring to circumcisions. Yahweh said to Aaron, "Go to the wilderness to meet Moses." So he went and encountered him at the mount of Elohim and kissed him. Now Moses told Aaron all the words of Yahweh with which he had sent him, and all the signs with which he had instructed him. Then Moses and Aaron went and gathered all the elders of the sons of Israel. Aaron spoke all the words which Yahweh had spoken to Moses, and he did the signs before the eyes of the people. Hence the people believed, when they heard that Yahweh notices the sons of Israel and that he sees their humiliation. Then they bowed their heads and bowed themselves down. Chapter 5. Afterward, Moses and Aaron entered and said to Pharaoh, "Thus says Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, dismiss my people that they may celebrate to me in the wilderness." Yet Pharaoh said, "Who is Yahweh, to whose voice I should hearken to dismiss Israel? I do not know Yahweh. And moreover, Israel I shall not dismiss." Then they said, "The Elohim of the Hebrews has met with us. Let us go, we pray, a way of 3 days into the wilderness, and let us sacrifice to Yahweh our Elohim, lest he come upon us with the plague or with the sword." Yet the king of Egypt said to them, "Why, Moses and Aaron, are you causing the people to renounce their tasks? Go to your burdens." And Pharaoh said, "Behold, they are now more numerous than the people of the land, and you cause them to cease from their burdens." Hence, Pharaoh instructed on that day the taskmasters among the people and their superintendents, saying, "You shall not continue to give crushed straw to the people to mold the bricks as heretofore. They themselves shall go, and they will rake together crushed straw for themselves. You shall place on them the regular number of bricks which they were making heretofore. You shall not diminish from it, for they are slackers. Therefore they are crying, saying, Let us go, let us sacrifice to our Elohim. The service shall be heavy on the men, and they shall carry it out, and must not heed false words." So the taskmasters of the people and their superintendents went forth and spoke to the people, saying, "Thus says Pharaoh, I am not giving crushed straw to you. As for you, go, take for yourselves crushed straw from whatever you may find, because there shall be nothing subtracted from your service." Hence the people scattered in all the land of Egypt to rake together stubble for crushed straw. And the taskmasters were rushing, saying, "Finish your tasks, a day's tally in its day, just as when there was crushed straw given to you." Then the superintendents of the sons of Israel were being smitten, whom Pharaoh's taskmasters had placed over them, saying, "For what reason did you not finish your statutory number of bricks, as you did heretofore, both unto yesterday and today?" Then the superintendents of the sons of Israel entered and cried to Pharaoh, saying, "Why are you doing thus to your servants? Crushed straw is not being given to your servants, and of bricks they are saying to us, Make them. And behold, your servants are being smitten, and your people are at fault." Yet he said, "You are slackers, slackers. Therefore you are saying, Let us go, let us sacrifice to Yahweh. Yet now go, serve, but crushed straw shall not be given to you, though the regular number of bricks shall you provide." Hence the superintendents of the sons of Israel saw themselves in an evil plight, having to say, "You shall not subtract from your bricks a day's tally in its day." So they came upon Moses and Aaron, stationed to meet them, when they came forth from Pharaoh. They said to them, "May Yahweh look upon you, and may he judge, since you have caused our scent to stink in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants, giving a sword into their hands to kill us." Moses returned to Yahweh and said, "O Yahweh, why have you done evil to this people? And why is this that you have sent me? For since I entered to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has done evil to this people. Yet you have not rescued, nay, rescued your people." Chapter 6. Then Yahweh said to Moses, "Now you shall see what I shall do to Pharaoh, For under a steadfast hand he shall dismiss them, and under a steadfast hand he shall drive them out from his land. Elohim spoke to Moses and said to him, I am Yahweh, and I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob as the El who suffices. As to my name Yahweh, I was not realized by them. However, I set up my covenant with them to give to them the land of Canaan, the land of their sojournings, in which they had sojourned. Moreover, I myself have hearkened to the moaning of the sons of Israel, whom the Egyptians are making servants. And I am mindful of my covenant. Wherefore say to the sons of Israel, I am Yahweh. Hence I will bring you forth from beneath the burdens of the Egyptians, and I will rescue you from their service. I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgments. I will take you to me as a people. I will become to you as Elohim, and you will realize that I am Yahweh, your Elohim, who brought you forth from beneath the burdens of the Egyptians. I will bring you to the land which I lifted my hand in swearing to give it to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. I will give it to you as a tenancy. I am Yahweh. When Moses spoke thus to the sons of Israel, they did not hearken to Moses because of shortness of spirit and hard service. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Enter, speak to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, that he may dismiss the sons of Israel from his land. Yet Moses spoke before Yahweh, saying, Behold, the sons of Israel do not hearken to me. How shall Pharaoh hearken to me when I am uncircumcised of lip? Then Yahweh spoke to Moses and to Aaron, and instructed them as to the sons of Israel, and as to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to bring forth the sons of Israel from the land of Egypt. These are the heads of their father's house. The sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel, are Enoch and Palu, Hezron and Carmi. These are the families of Reuben. The sons of Simeon are Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, and Saul, the son of the Canaanites. These are the families of Simeon. These are the names of the sons of Levi according to their genealogical records, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And the years of the life of Levi were 137 years. The sons of Gershon are Libni and Shimei, according to their families. The sons of Kohath are Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uziel. And the years of the life of Kohath were 133 years. The sons of Merari are Mahli and Mushi. These are the Levite families according to their genealogical records. Amram took Jochebed, his aunt, as his wife, and she bore for him Aaron, Moses, and Miriam, their sister. And the years of the life of Amram were 137 years. The sons of Izhar are Korah, Nepheg, and Zikri. The sons of Uziel are Mishael, Elzaphan, and Sithri. Aaron took Elisheba, daughter of Amminadab and sister of Nahshon, as his wife, and she bore for him Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. The sons of Korah are Asir, Elkanah, and Abiasaph. These are the Korahite families. Eleazar, son of Aaron, took to himself one from the daughters of Putiel as his wife, and she bore for him Phinehas. These are the patriarchal heads of the Levites according to their families. This Aaron and this Moses are those to whom Yahweh said, Bring forth the sons of Israel from the land of Egypt, according to their hosts. They were the speakers to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to bring forth the sons of Israel from the land of Egypt, this Moses and this Aaron. It came to be on the day when Yahweh spoke to Moses in the land of Egypt, that Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, I am Yahweh. Speak to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, all that I am speaking to you. Yet Moses said before Yahweh, Behold, I am uncircumcised of lip, so how shall Pharaoh hearken to me? Untitled Chapter 7. Yahweh said to Moses, See, I appoint you an Elohim to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother shall come to be your prophet. You yourself shall speak all that I am instructing you, while Aaron your brother, he shall speak to Pharaoh, that he dismiss the sons of Israel from his land. And I myself shall stiffen the heart of Pharaoh, and I will increase my signs and my miracles in the land of Egypt. Though Pharaoh shall not hearken to you, yet I will lay my hand on Egypt, and I will bring forth my hosts, my people, the sons of Israel, from the land of Egypt with great judgments. And all the Egyptians will know that I am Yahweh when I stretch out my hand over Egypt, and I bring forth the sons of Israel from their midst. So Moses and Aaron did just as Yahweh instructed them, thus they did. Now Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron was 83 years old when they spoke to Pharaoh. Yahweh spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, "When Pharaoh is speaking to you, saying, 'Give your sign or miracle,' then you will say to Aaron, 'Take your rod and fling it before Pharaoh that it may become a snake.'" Moses and Aaron entered to Pharaoh and did so, just as Yahweh had instructed. Aaron flung his rod before Pharaoh and before his courtiers, and it became a snake. Pharaoh, however, called for the wise men and for the enchanters. And even they, the sacred scribes of Egypt, did so with their occultisms. Each man flung his rod, and they became snakes. Then Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. Yet the heart of Pharaoh was steadfast, and he did not hearken to them, just as Yahweh had spoken. Then Yahweh said to Moses, "Gloried is the heart of Pharaoh. He has refused to dismiss the people. Go to Pharaoh in the morning. Behold, he shall be going forth to the waters, so you will station yourself to meet him on the ridge of the waterway. And the rod which was turned into a serpent shall you take in your hand. Then you will say to him, 'Yahweh, the Elohim of the Hebrews, sent me to you, saying, Dismiss my people that they may serve me in the wilderness. And behold, you have not hearkened meanwhile. Thus says Yahweh, by this shall you know that I am Yahweh. Behold, I shall be smiting with the rod which is in my hand upon the waters which are in the waterway, and they will be turned to blood. And the fish which are in the waterway shall die, and the waterway will stink, and the Egyptians will be too repelled to drink the waters from the waterway. Then Yahweh said to Moses, Say to Aaron, Take your rod, and stretch out your hand over the waters of Egypt, over their streams, over their waterways, over their ponds, and over every confluence of their waters, that they may become blood. Thus there will come to be blood in all the land of Egypt, and in wooden and in stone troughs. Moses and Aaron did so, just as Yahweh had instructed. He raised up the rod and smote the waters which were in the waterway before the eyes of Pharaoh and before the eyes of his courtiers. And all the waters which were in the waterway were turned to blood. The fish which were in the waterway died, and the waterway stank, so that the Egyptians were unable to drink the waters from the waterway. And the blood came to be in all the land of Egypt. Also, the sacred scribes of Egypt did so with their occultisms. Hence the heart of Pharaoh was steadfast, and he did not hearken to them, just as Yahweh had spoken. Pharaoh turned around, entered into his house, and did not set his heart even to this. Yet all the Egyptians delved round about the waterway for waters to drink, for they were unable to drink from the waters of the waterway. When 7 days were fulfilled after Yahweh's smiting of the waterway. Chapter 8. Then Yahweh said to Moses, Enter to Pharaoh, and you will say to him, Thus says Yahweh, Dismiss my people, that they may serve me. And if you remain a refuser to dismiss them, behold, I will be striking all your territory with frogs. The waterway will swarm with frogs, and they will ascend and enter into your house and your bedchamber, and onto your couch, into the house of your courtiers, and on your people, into your stoves, and into your kneading troughs. On you, and on your people, and on all your courtiers shall the frogs ascend. Then Yahweh said to Moses, Say to Aaron, Stretch out your hand with your rod over the streams, over the waterways and over the ponds, and bring up the frogs on the land of Egypt. Now Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs ascended and covered the land of Egypt. Also the sacred scribes did so with their occultisms, and they brought up the frogs over the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and for Aaron and said, Make an entreaty to Yahweh, that he may take away the frogs from me and from my people. Then I shall dismiss the people, that they may sacrifice to Yahweh. Moses said to Pharaoh, Vaunt yourself over me as to when I should make entreaty for you, and for your courtiers, and for your people to cut off the frogs from you and from your houses. Only in the waterway shall they remain. So he said, Tomorrow. And he said, Be it according to your word, that you may know that there is no one like Yahweh our Elohim. The frogs will withdraw from you and from your houses, from your courtiers and from your people. Only in the waterway shall they remain. Then Moses and Aaron went forth from Pharaoh, and Moses cried to Yahweh concerning the matter of the frogs which he had appointed for Pharaoh. So Yahweh did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died from the houses, from the hamlets, and from the fields. They piled them up, homer after homer, and the land stank. When Pharaoh saw that there came to be a mitigation, he hardened his heart, and he hearkened not to them, just as Yahweh had spoken. Then Yahweh said to Moses, "Say to Aaron, stretch out your hand with your rod, and smite the soil of the land, and there will come to be lice in all the land of Egypt." And they did so. Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod, and smote the soil of the land. And there came to be lice on human and on beast. All the soil of the land came to be lice in all the land of Egypt. Now the sacred scribes did so by their occultisms, so as to bring forth the lice, yet they were unable. Since there had come to be lice on human and on beast, the sacred scribes said to Pharaoh, "This is the finger of Elohim." Yet the heart of Pharaoh was steadfast, and he did not hearken to them, just as Yahweh had spoken. Then Yahweh said to Moses, "Rise early in the morning, and station yourself before Pharaoh. Behold, he will be going forth to the waters. Then you will say to him, 'Thus says Yahweh, dismiss my people that they may serve me. For should you not dismiss my people, behold me sending on you, on your courtiers, on your people, and on your houses, a mixture of flies. The houses of Egypt will be full with the mixture of flies, and even the ground on which they are. Yet I will distinguish in that day the land of Goshen on which my people are standing, that by no means there come to be there a mixture of flies, so that you may know that I am Yahweh within the land. And I will place a parting between my people and your people. Tomorrow shall this sign come to be." And Yahweh did so. A heavy mixture of flies came into the house of Pharaoh and the house of his courtiers, and into all the land of Egypt. The land was ruined because of the presence of the mixture of flies. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and for Aaron and said, "Go, sacrifice to your Elohim in the land." Yet Moses said, "It is not the established custom to do so, for we shall sacrifice that which is an abhorrence of the Egyptians to Yahweh our Elohim. Behold, should we sacrifice an abhorrence of the Egyptians before their eyes, would they not stone us? A way of 3 days shall we go into the wilderness, and we will sacrifice to Yahweh our Elohim, just as he said to us." So Pharaoh said, "I shall dismiss you, that you may sacrifice to Yahweh your Elohim in the wilderness, but you shall not go far, not far to go. Make an entreaty about me." And Moses said, "Behold, I am going forth from you, and I will make an entreaty to Yahweh, that the mixture of flies withdraw from Pharaoh, from his courtiers, and from his people tomorrow. But Pharaoh must not continue to trifle in, not dismissing the people to sacrifice to Yahweh." Then Moses went forth from Pharaoh, and he entreated Yahweh. And Yahweh did according to the word of Moses. And the mixture of flies withdrew from Pharaoh, from his courtiers, and from his people. Not one remained. Yet Pharaoh hardened his heart, even at this time, and he did not dismiss the people. Chapter 9. Then Yahweh said to Moses, "Enter to Pharaoh, and you will speak to him. Thus says Yahweh, Elohim of the Hebrews, dismiss my people that they may serve me. For if you remain a refuser to dismiss them, and you still are holding fast to them, behold, the hand of Yahweh is coming to be on your cattle which are in the field, on the horses, on the donkeys, on the camels, on the herd, and on the flock, with an exceedingly heavy plague. Yet Yahweh will distinguish between the cattle of Israel and the cattle of Egypt. Not a thing shall die of all belonging to the sons of Israel." So Yahweh set an appointed time, saying, "Tomorrow Yahweh shall do this thing in the land." And Yahweh did this thing on the morrow. All the cattle of the Egyptians died, yet of the cattle of the sons of Israel not one died. Then Pharaoh sent, and behold, not even one had died from the cattle of Israel. Yet the heart of Pharaoh hardened, and he did not dismiss the people. Yahweh said to Moses and to Aaron, "Take for yourselves both of your hands full of lime-kiln quicklime, and Moses will sprinkle it toward the heavens before the eyes of Pharaoh, and it will become powder over all the land of Egypt." Then there will come to be on human and on beast boils, budding out into pustules in all the land of Egypt. So they took the limekiln quicklime and stood before Pharaoh. And Moses sprinkled it toward the heavens, and there came to be boils, budding out into pustules on human and on beast. Now the sacred scribes were unable to stand before Moses in view of the boils, for the boil came to be on the sacred scribes and on all Egypt. Yet Yahweh made the heart of Pharaoh steadfast, so that he did not hearken to them, just as Yahweh had spoken to Moses. Then Yahweh said to Moses, "Rise early in the morning, station yourself before Pharaoh, and you will say to him, 'Thus says Yahweh, Elohim of the Hebrews, dismiss my people that they may serve me. For at this time I am sending all my strokes onto your heart and your courtiers and your people, in order that you shall know that there is no one like me in the entire earth. For by now I could have put forth my hand and smitten you and your people with the plague, so that you were suppressed from the earth. Nevertheless, for this sake I keep you standing, in order to make you see my vigor, and that my name may be related in the entire earth. Still you are heaping yourself up against my people, so as not to dismiss them. Behold me causing it to rain about this time tomorrow, an exceedingly heavy hail, such as has not come in Egypt from the day of her founding until now. And now send, provide your cattle strong shelter, and all that you have in the field. Every human and beast which is found in the field and is not gathered toward the house. On them the hail will descend, and they will die." The one fearful of the word of Yahweh among the courtiers of Pharaoh made his servants and his cattle flee to the houses. Yet he who was not setting his heart on the word of Yahweh, he forsook his servants and his cattle in the field. Yahweh said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand to the heavens that hail may come to be in all the land of Egypt, on human and on beast, and on all herbage of the field in the land of Egypt." So Moses stretched out his rod to the heavens, and Yahweh, he gave thunderclaps and hail, and fire ran earthward. Thus Yahweh rained hail over the land of Egypt, and the hail came with fire, taking hold of itself in the midst of the hail, exceedingly heavy, such as had not come in all the land of Egypt since it became a nation. Now the hail smote in all the land of Egypt all that was in the field, from human unto beast. Also the hail smote all herbage of the field and broke every tree of the field. But in the land of Goshen, where the sons of Israel were, no hail came. Then Pharaoh sent and called for Moses and for Aaron and said to them, "I have sinned this time. Yahweh is the righteous one, and I and my people are the wicked. Make an entreaty to Yahweh, for this is enough of their coming to be thunderclaps of Elohim and hail. Let me dismiss you. You shall not continue to stay." Moses said to him, "As I go forth from the city, I shall spread my palms to Yahweh, and the thunderclaps shall halt, and the hail shall come no longer, so that you may know that the earth is Yahweh's. As for you and your courtiers, I know that you are not yet fearing because of the presence of Yahweh Elohim." And the flax and the barley were smitten, for the barley was in the pollinated ear, and the flax was in pod. Yet the wheat and the spelt were not smitten, for they were in blade. When Moses went forth from Pharaoh from the city, and he spread his palms to Yahweh, then the thunderclaps halted, and the hail and the rain was not poured forth earthward. Now Pharaoh saw that the rain, the hail, and the thunderclaps had halted. Yet he continued to sin and hardened his heart, he and his courtiers. So the heart of Pharaoh was steadfast, and he did not dismiss the sons of Israel, just as Yahweh had spoken by means of Moses. Chapter 10. Yahweh said to Moses, "Enter to Pharaoh, for I myself have hardened his heart and the hearts of his courtiers, that I may set these my signs among them, and that you may relate in the ears of your son and your son's son, that which I set in action in Egypt, and my signs which I placed among them, that you will know that I am Yahweh." So Moses and Aaron entered to Pharaoh and said to him, "Thus says Yahweh, Elohim of the Hebrews, how long will you refuse to be humbled because of my presence? Dismiss my people that they may serve me. For if you remain a refuser to dismiss my people, behold me bringing the locust swarm tomorrow into your territory, and it will cover the eye of the land, so that none can see the land. And it will eat the salvaged leavings, whatever remained for you from the hail. It will eat every tree which is sprouting for you from the field. Your houses will be full, and the houses of all your courtiers, and the houses of all the Egyptians, such as your fathers and your fathers' fathers had not seen, from the day they came to be on the ground until this day. Then he turned around and went forth from Pharaoh. Now the courtiers of Pharaoh said to him, "How long shall this man become a trap to us? Dismiss the men, that they may serve Yahweh their Elohim. Do you not yet know that Egypt perishes?" When Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh, he said to them, "Go, serve Yahweh your Elohim." But who are those going? Moses said, "With our youths and with our elders shall we go. With our sons and with our daughters. With our flocks and with our herds shall we go. For it is a festival of Yahweh for us." Then he said to them, "So let Yahweh be with you if ever I dismiss you and your little ones. Discern that evil is in front of your faces. Not so. Go now, just the men of mastery, and serve Yahweh, for it is what you are seeking." So they drove them out from the presence of Pharaoh. Yahweh said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt, for the locust, that it may ascend over the land of Egypt, and devour all the herbage of the land, and all the fruit of the trees which the hail has let remain." So Moses stretched out his rod over the land of Egypt, and Yahweh. He drove an east wind into the land all that day and all the night. The morning came, and the east wind carried the locust swarm along. Then the locust swarm ascended over all the land of Egypt, and it rested within the entire territory of Egypt, exceedingly heavy. Before it, there had not come to be a locust swarm so great as it, and after it, none shall come to be so. It covered the eye of all the land, and the land was darkened. And it devoured all the herbage of the land, and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left, so that no green at all was left on tree or on herbage of the field in all the land of Egypt. Now Pharaoh hastened to call for Moses and for Aaron and said, "I have sinned against Yahweh, your Elohim, and against you. And now I pray, bear with my sin only this time, and make an entreaty to Yahweh your Elohim, that he may take away from over me only this death." So Moses went forth from Pharaoh and entreated Yahweh. Then Yahweh turned an exceedingly steadfast west wind, and it carried away the locust swarm and blew it toward the Sea of Weeds. Not one locust remained within the entire territory of Egypt. Yet Yahweh made the heart of Pharaoh steadfast, so that he did not dismiss the sons of Israel. Yahweh said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand to the heavens, and let a darkness come on the land of Egypt, so that the darkness may cause them to grope." Then Moses stretched out his hand to the heavens, and gloomy darkness came to be in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. No one saw his brother, and no one rose from his place for 3 days. Yet all the sons of Israel came to have light in their dwellings. Now Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, "Go, serve Yahweh your Elohim, but your flocks and your herds shall be made to stay put. However, your little ones may go with you." Moses said, "You should also give sacrifices and ascent offerings into our hand, that we may offer them to Yahweh our Elohim. And even our cattle shall go with us. Not a hoof shall remain, for from them shall we take to serve Yahweh our Elohim, for we do not know with what we shall serve Yahweh until we come there." Yet Yahweh made the heart of Pharaoh steadfast, and he did not comply so as to dismiss them. So Pharaoh said to him, "Go away from me, guard yourself. Do not continue to see my face, for in the day you see my face, you shall die." Hence Moses said, "Properly you have spoken. No further shall I continue to see your face." Chapter 11. Yahweh said to Moses, "One further contagion shall I bring on Pharaoh and on Egypt. Afterward he shall dismiss you from this place. When he finally dismisses you, he shall drive out, yea, drive you out from this place. O speak in the ears of the people that they should ask, each man of his associate and each woman of her associate, articles of silver and articles of gold and raiment." And Yahweh gave the people grace in the eyes of the Egyptians, when they requested of them. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the eyes of the Egyptians, in the eyes of the courtiers of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of the people. Then Moses said, "Thus Yahweh has spoken, about midnight I am going forth in the midst of Egypt, and every firstborn in the land of Egypt will die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh sitting on his throne, unto the firstborn of the maidservant who is behind the millstones, and every firstborn of beast. There will come to be a great cry in all the land of Egypt, such as has not occurred, and such as shall not occur again. Yet against any of the sons of Israel, not a cur shall point his tongue against a man, or even a beast, so that you may know that Yahweh is distinguishing between Egypt and Israel. Then all these your courtiers will descend to me and bow themselves down to me, saying, Go forth, you and all the people who follow in your footsteps. And afterward I shall go forth." So he went forth from Pharaoh in the heat of anger. Yahweh said to Moses, "Pharaoh shall not hearken to you, so that my miracles may increase in the land of Egypt." Hence Moses and Aaron, they did all these miracles before Pharaoh. And Yahweh made the heart of Pharaoh steadfast, so that he did not dismiss the sons of Israel from his land. Chapter 12. Yahweh spoke to Moses and to Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, "This month shall be for you the beginning of months. It shall be first for you of the months of the year. Speak to the whole congregation of the sons of Israel, saying, On the 10th of this month they shall take for themselves, each man a flockling according to their father's house, a flockling for each household. If the household is too few for what comes from a flockling, then he and his neighbor next to his house will take it according to the assessment of the souls. Each one corresponding to his eating shall you assess with the flockling. A flawless flockling, a year-old male, shall you come to have. From the he-lambs or from the goats shall you take it, and it will become a charge of yours until the 14th day of this month. Then they will slay it, every assembly of the congregation of the sons of Israel, between the evening hours. And they will take some of the blood and put it on the two jambs and on the lintel, on the houses in which they are eating it. Then they will eat the flesh on this night, roasted with fire, and with unleavened bread. Over bitter herbs shall they eat it. Do not eat any of it underdone or cooked by being cooked in water, but rather roasted with fire, even its head along with its shanks and with its inwards. You shall not reserve any of it until the morning. And what is left of it until the morning you shall burn with fire. And thus shall you eat it, with your waist girded, your sandals on your feet, and your stave in your hand. You will eat it in urgent haste. It is the Passover to Yahweh. For I will pass through the land of Egypt in this night, and smite every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from human even unto beast, and on all the Elohim of Egypt I shall execute judgments. I am Yahweh. Then the blood will become a sign for you on the houses where you are. When I see the blood, I will pass over you, and there shall not come to be a stroke on you to cause ruin when I smite in the land of Egypt. Hence this day will become for you a memorial, and you will celebrate it as a festival to Yahweh. Throughout your generations shall you celebrate it as an Aeonian statute. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Yea, on the first day you shall eradicate yeast from your houses. For anyone eating what is leavened from the first day unto the 7th day, that soul will be cut off from Israel. On the first day you shall come to have a holy meeting. Also on the 7th day a holy meeting. No work at all shall be done on them. Only what is eaten by every soul, that alone may be prepared by you. You will observe the instruction, for on this very day I will bring forth your hosts from the land of Egypt. And you will observe this day throughout your generations as an Aeonian statute. In the first month on the 14th day of the month in the evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until day 21 of the month in the evening. For 7 days yeast shall not be found in your houses. For anyone eating leavened bread, that soul will be cut off from the congregation of Israel, both among the sojourners and among the natives of the land. You shall not eat any leavened bread in all your dwellings. You shall eat unleavened bread. Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, Draw out and take for yourselves from the flock for your families, and slay the Passover. Then you will take a bunch of hyssop, and you will dip it in the blood which is in the basin, and you will touch the lintel and the two jambs with the blood which is in the basin. As for you, not one of you shall go forth from the portal of his house until the morning. When Yahweh passes through to strike the Egyptians, and he sees the blood on the lintel and on the two jambs, then Yahweh will pass over the portal, and he shall not allow the ruiner to enter into your houses to strike. Now you will observe this word as a statute for you and for your sons unto the aeon. It will come to be when you are entering to the land which Yahweh is giving to you, just as he spoke, that you will observe this service. And it will come to be when your sons are saying to you, what is this service to you? Then you will say, it is the sacrifice of Passover to Yahweh, who passed over the houses of the sons of Israel in Egypt, when he struck the Egyptians, yet our households he rescued. So the people bowed their heads and bowed themselves down. Then the sons of Israel went and did so, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses and Aaron, thus they did. It came to be at midnight that Yahweh, he smote every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, sitting on his throne, unto the firstborn of the captive who was in the house of the cistern, and every firstborn of beast. When Pharaoh rose by night, he and all his courtiers and all the Egyptians, then there came to be a great cry in all the land of Egypt, for there was no house where there was no one dead. Hence Pharaoh called for Moses and for Aaron by night and said, Rise, go forth from the midst of my people, you indeed and the sons of Israel. Go, serve Yahweh as you spoke. Moreover, your flocks, even your herds, take just as you have spoken, and go, however you will bless me. Also the Egyptians were steadfast over the people to hasten to dismiss them from the land, for they said, All of us are dying. And the people carried their dough ere it was leavened, their kneading troughs bundled in their raiments on their backs. Then the sons of Israel, they did according to the word of Moses, and requested from the Egyptians articles of silver and articles of gold and raiments. And Yahweh, he gave the people grace in the eyes of the Egyptians, when they asked of them. Thus they despoiled the Egyptians. The sons of Israel journeyed from Ramesses toward Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, those of mastery besides the little ones. Moreover, a mixed multitude ascended with them, and flocks, herds, and cattle, exceedingly heavy. They baked the dough which they brought forth from Egypt, unleavened ember cakes, for it was not leavened, for they were driven out of Egypt, and they could not dally, and moreover, they did not make provision for themselves. Now the dwelling of the sons of Israel and their fathers, who dwelt in the land of Canaan and in the land of Egypt, was 430 years. And it came to be at the end of 430 years, and it came to be on this very day that all the host of Yahweh went forth from the land of Egypt. It was a night of observances for Yahweh to bring them forth from the land of Egypt. This same night is to Yahweh, observances for all the sons of Israel throughout their generations. Yahweh said to Moses and to Aaron, This is the statute of the Passover. Any son of a foreigner, he shall not eat of it. Yet any man's servant acquired with silver, when you have circumcised him, then he may eat of it. A guest or a hireling, he may not eat of it. In one house shall it be eaten. You shall not bring forth any of the flesh from the house to the outside, and a bone in it you shall not break. The whole congregation of the sons of Israel, they shall do it. In case a sojourner is sojourning with you, and he makes a Passover to Yahweh, every male of his is to be circumcised, and then he may draw near to make it, and he will become as a native of the land. Yet anyone uncircumcised, he shall not eat of it. One law shall there be for both the native and for the sojourner sojourning in your midst. And all the sons of Israel did so. Just as Yahweh had instructed Moses and Aaron, thus they did. It came to be on this very day when Yahweh brought forth the sons of Israel from the land of Egypt with their hosts. Chapter 13, that Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Hallow to me every firstborn male, opening up every womb, among the sons of Israel, among human and among beast. It is mine. Moses said to the people, You are to remember this day on which you went forth from the land of Egypt, from the house of servants, for with steadfastness of hand Yahweh brought you forth from this place. Then nothing leavened should be eaten. Today you are going forth in the month of Abib. It will come to be when Yahweh your Elohim shall have brought you to the land of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Perizzite, the Girgashite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, about which he swore to your fathers to give to you, a land gushing with milk and honey. Then you will serve with this service in this month. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day there shall be a festival to Yahweh. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days, and nothing leavened should be seen with you, and no yeast should be seen with you within your entire territory. Then you will tell your son in that day, saying, It is for the sake of this which Yahweh did for me when I went forth from Egypt. And you will come to have this as a sign on your hand and between your eyes, for remembrance, that the law of Yahweh may be in your mouth. For with a steadfast hand Yahweh brought you forth from Egypt. You will observe this statute at its appointed time from days to days. It will come to be when Yahweh your Elohim shall bring you into the land of the Canaanite, just as he swore to you and to your fathers, that he will give it to you. Then you will set apart for Yahweh every male opening up the womb. Every male opening up the womb, the yeanling of a beast which you shall come to have, the males shall be for Yahweh. Yet every male opening up a donkey shall you ransom with a flockling, and should you not ransom it, then you will break its neck. Yet every firstborn of a human among your sons shall you ransom. When it comes to be that your son is asking you tomorrow, saying, What does this mean? Then you will say to him, With steadfastness of hand, Yahweh brought us forth from Egypt, from the house of servants. When it came to be that Pharaoh was obstinate to dismiss us, then Yahweh killed every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of human unto the firstborn of beast. Therefore I am sacrificing to Yahweh all the males opening up the womb, yet I am ransoming every firstborn of my sons. Now it comes to be as a sign on your hand and as brow bands between your eyes. For with steadfastness of hand Yahweh brought us forth from Egypt. It came to be when Pharaoh had dismissed the people that Elohim did not guide them by way of the land of the Philistines. Though it was near, for Elohim said, Lest the people should regret when they see war, and they return to Egypt. Hence, Elohim caused the people to turn about by the wilderness road of the Sea of Weeds. In fivefold deployment, the sons of Israel ascended from the land of Egypt. And Moses took the bones of Joseph with him. For Joseph had adjured the sons of Israel, saying, Elohim shall take note, take note of you, that you will bring up my bones with you from this place. When they journeyed from Succoth and encamped at Etham, on the fringe of the wilderness, then Yahweh was going before them by day, in a column of cloud to guide them along the way, and by night in a column of fire, to give light for them to go by day and night. The column of cloud by day and the column of fire by night did not remove from the presence of the people. Chapter 14. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel, that they may return and encamp before Pihahiroth, between Migdol and the sea, before Baal-zephon. Over against it you shall encamp by the sea. So Pharaoh will say of the sons of Israel, They are perplexed in the land. The wilderness has closed in on them. Thus I will make the heart of Pharaoh steadfast, so he will pursue after them. Then I shall indeed be glorified in Pharaoh and in all his army, and the Egyptians will know that I am Yahweh. Hence they did so. When it was told to the king of Egypt that the people had run away, the heart of Pharaoh and his courtiers was turned as to the people, and they said, What is this we have done, that we dismiss the sons of Israel from our service? So he hitched up his chariots, and he took his people with him. He took 600 chosen chariots and all the riders of Egypt, and high officers in all of them. Thus Yahweh made the heart of Pharaoh king of Egypt steadfast, and he pursued after the sons of Israel. The sons of Israel were going forth with a high hand, yet the Egyptians were pursuing after them, and they overtook them encamping by the sea all the horses, the chariotry of Pharaoh, his horsemen and his army, at Pihahiroth, before Baal-zephon. So Pharaoh he drew near. Then the sons of Israel lifted their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians were journeying after them. Now they became exceedingly fearful, and the sons of Israel cried to Yahweh. They said to Moses, Is it for lack of tombs in Egypt that you have taken us to die in the wilderness? What is this you have done to us in bringing us forth from Egypt? Is not this the word which we spoke to you in Egypt, saying, Leave off from us, and do let us serve the Egyptians, for it is better for us to serve the Egyptians than for us to die in the wilderness." Then Moses said to the people, "Do not fear. Station yourselves and see the salvation of Yahweh, which he shall work for you today. For as you see the Egyptians today, you shall not any more see them again unto the aeon. Yahweh, he shall fight for you. As for you, you shall be silent." Yahweh said to Moses, "Why are you crying to me? Speak to the sons of Israel that they should journey. And you, raise high your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and split it, that the sons of Israel may enter into the midst of the sea on dry ground. And I, behold me, making the heart of the Egyptians steadfast, that they may enter after them. For I shall indeed be glorified over Pharaoh and over all his army, over his chariots and over his horsemen. Then the Egyptians will know that I am Yahweh, when I am glorified over Pharaoh, over his chariots and over his horsemen." Hence the messenger of the One, Elohim, who was going before the camp of Israel, journeyed and went behind them. Also the column of cloud journeyed from before them and stood behind them. Thus he came between the camp of Egypt and the camp of Israel. Over there came the cloud and darkness, yet here he lightened up the night. So this one did not come near to that one all the night. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and by a strong east wind all the night, Yahweh caused the sea to go. Thus he made in the sea a drained area when the waters were split apart. Then the sons of Israel entered into the midst of the sea on dry ground, and the waters were to them a wall on their right and on their left. Now the Egyptians pursued and entered after them, all the horses of Pharaoh, his chariots and his horsemen, into the midst of the sea. It came to be, in the morning vigil, when Yahweh gazed on the camp of the Egyptians in the column of fire and cloud, that he discomfited the camp of Egypt. Then he clogged the wheels of his chariots and made them drive heavily. Then the Egyptians said, "Do let me flee from the face of Israel, for Yahweh, he fights for them against Egypt." Yahweh said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea, that the waters may return on the Egyptians, on their chariots and on their horsemen." So Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the sea returned before morning to its perennial flow, while the Egyptians were fleeing to meet it. Thus Yahweh shook off the Egyptians in the midst of the sea, for the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, all the army of Pharaoh which had been entering after them into the sea. Not even one of them remained, yet the sons of Israel, they went on dry ground in the midst of the sea, and the waters were to them a wall on their right and on their left. Thus Yahweh saved Israel on that day from the hand of Egypt. Then Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore, and Israel discerned the great hand with which Yahweh had done this to Egypt. So the people feared Yahweh and believed in Yahweh and in Moses his servant. Chapter 15. Then Moses and the sons of Israel sang this song to Yahweh and spoke, saying, "Do let me sing to Yahweh, for he is august, yea, august, the horse and its rider. He heaved into the sea. Yah is my strength and my melody, and he became mine for salvation. This is my El. I shall adorn him, Elohim of my father. I shall exalt him. Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. The chariots of Pharaoh and his army. He shot into the sea, and the choice of his high officers. They are sunk into the sea of weeds. Abysses covered them. They descended into shadowy depths like a stone. Your right hand, O Yahweh, was ennobled in vigor. Your right hand, O Yahweh, it was harrying the enemy. And by the vastness of your augustness, you were demolishing those rising against you. You were sending forth your heat. It was devouring them like stubble. And by the wind of your anger, the waters were denuded. The floods were stood up as a waterspout. The abysses were congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I shall pursue. I shall overtake. I shall apportion the loot. My soul's desire shall be fulfilled on them. I shall unsheathe my sword. My hand shall evict them. You made a breeze with your wind. The sea covered them. They submerged like lead in the noble waters. Who is like you among the Elim, O Yahweh? Who is like you, ennobled in holiness, to be feared in praises, working marvels. You stretched out your right hand. The earth swallowed them up. You guided in your benignity this people you have redeemed. You will conduct them by your strength to your holy homestead. The peoples have heard. They are disturbed. Travail, it has taken hold of the dwellers of Philistia. Since then, the sheiks of Edom are flustered. The arbiters of Moab, quivering, took hold of them. All the dwellers of Canaan are dissolved. Dread and awe are falling on them. By the greatness of your arm they are still as a stone, until your people are passing by, O Yahweh, until this people whom you have acquired are passing by. You shall bring them in and plant them in the mount of your allotment, the site for your dwelling which you have made, O Yahweh, the sanctuary, O Yahweh, which your hands have established. Yahweh, he shall reign for the eon and further. When the horses of Pharaoh had entered with his chariots and with his horsemen into the sea, then Yahweh returned the waters of the sea over them. Yet the sons of Israel, they had gone on dry ground in the midst of the sea. Then Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aaron, took the tambourine in her hand, and all the women went forth after her with tambourines and with choruses. And Miriam responded to them, Sing to Yahweh, for he is august, yea, august, the horse and its rider. He heaved into the sea. Now Moses caused Israel to journey from the Sea of Weeds. So they went forth to the wilderness of Shur, and went 3 days into the wilderness, but they found no waters. When they came to Marah, they were unable to drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter, therefore one called its name Marah. Then the people grumbled against Moses, saying, What shall we drink? So he cried out to Yahweh, and Yahweh directed him to a tree. So he flung it into the waters, and the waters became sweet. There he made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he probed them, for he said, If you shall hearken, yea, hearken to the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, and do what is upright in his eyes, and you give ear to his instructions and observe all his statutes, then all the illnesses which I placed on the Egyptians I shall not place on you, for I am Yahweh your healer. Then they came to Elim. There were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees there. So they encamped there by the waters. Chapter 16. They journeyed from Elim, and the whole congregation of the sons of Israel entered into the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the 2nd month after their going forth from the land of Egypt. Then the whole congregation of the sons of Israel grumbled against Moses and against Aaron in the wilderness. And the sons of Israel said to them, Oh, that we had died by the hand of Yahweh in the land of Egypt, when we sat over the flesh pots, when we ate bread to satisfaction. For you have brought us forth to this wilderness to put this entire assembly to death with famine. Then Yahweh said to Moses, Behold me causing bread from the heavens to rain for you. When the people will go forth, they will pick up a day's matter in its day, that I may probe them, whether they shall go by my law or not. And it will come to be on the 6th day, when they prepare what they are bringing in, that there will come to be a double portion over that, which they are picking up day by day. So Moses and Aaron said to all the sons of Israel, This evening, then you will know that it was Yahweh who brought you forth from the land of Egypt. And in the morning, then you will see the glory of Yahweh, since he heard your grumblings against Yahweh. What are we that you are grumbling against us? And Moses said, Since Yahweh gives to you in the evening flesh to eat and bread in the morning to satisfy, when Yahweh heard your grumblings, which you are grumbling against him, then what are we? Not against us are your grumblings, but rather against Yahweh. Then Moses said to Aaron, Say to the whole congregation of the sons of Israel, Come near before Yahweh, for he has heard your grumblings. And it came to be, as Aaron spoke to the whole congregation of the sons of Israel, that they turned around to the wilderness, and behold, the glory of Yahweh, it appeared in the cloud. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, I have heard the grumblings of the sons of Israel. Speak to them, saying, Between the evening hours you shall eat flesh, and in the morning you shall be satisfied with bread. Then you will realize that I am Yahweh your Elohim. When it came to be in the evening, quail came up and covered the camp. In the morning the lying of the night mist came to be around the camp. And the lying of the night mist went up, and behold, on the surface of the wilderness was a thin flake, thin as hoar frost, on the earth. When the sons of Israel saw it, they said, each man to his brother, "What is it?" For they did not know what it was. So Moses said to them, "It is the bread which Yahweh has given to you for food. This is the matter which Yahweh has instructed. Pick up of it each man corresponding to his eating, an omer for a pole, numbering your souls. Each man for those who are in his tent shall you take." Now the sons of Israel did so. Some picked up an increase and some a decrease. When they measured with an omer, the increase had caused no superfluity, and the decrease had caused no lack. Each man corresponding to his eating, they had picked it up. Then Moses said to them, "Let no one reserve any of it until the morning." Yet they did not hearken to Moses, and some men reserved some of it until the morning. So it rose high with worms and stank. And Moses was wrathful over them. They picked it up morning by morning, each man corresponding to his eating. When the sun was warm, then it melted. Now it came to be on the 6th day they picked up a double portion of bread, 2 omers for one. When all the princes of the congregation came and told it to Moses, then he said to them, "This is what Yahweh has spoken, a cessation, a holy Sabbath to Yahweh is tomorrow. What you are baking, bake, and what you are cooking, cook, and all the superfluity, leave it in your charge until the morning." So they left it until the morning, just as Moses had instructed, yet it caused no stink, and no maggots came to be in it. Then Moses said, "Eat it today, for there is a Sabbath today to Yahweh. Today you shall not find it in the field. 6 days shall you pick it up. Yet on the 7th day, the Sabbath, none shall come to be on it." Yet it came to be on the 7th day, some of the people went forth to pick it up, and they found none. Hence Yahweh said to Moses, "How long will you refuse to observe my instructions and my laws? See, for Yahweh, he has given to you the Sabbath. Therefore he is giving to you on the 6th day bread for 2 days. Be seated, each man in his place. Let no one go forth from his place on the 7th day." So the people ceased on the 7th day. The sons of Israel called its name manna. It was like a seed of white coriander, and its taste like cakes with honey. Then Moses said, "This is the word which Yahweh has instructed. Take the fullness of an omer of it as a charge throughout your generations, that they may see the bread which I gave you to eat in the wilderness when I brought you forth from the land of Egypt." And Moses said to Aaron, "Take 1 urn, and dispense therein the fullness of an omer of manna, and leave it before Yahweh as a charge throughout your generations, just as Yahweh has instructed Moses." So Aaron left it before the testimony as a charge. As for the sons of Israel, they ate the manna 40 years until their coming to a land indwelt. The manna, they ate it until their coming to the fringe of the land of Canaan. Now an omer, it is 1/10 of the ephah. Chapter 17. The whole congregation of the sons of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin in their journeys at the bidding of Yahweh, and they encamped in Rephidim. Yet there was no water for the people to drink. So the people contended with Moses and said, "Give to us water that we may drink." And Moses said to them, "Why are you contending with me? Why are you probing Yahweh?" When the people thirsted there for water, the people grumbled against Moses and said, "Why is this that you brought us up from Egypt to put me and my sons and my cattle to death by thirst?" So Moses cried to Yahweh, saying, "What shall I do for this people? A little further, and they will stone me." Yahweh said to Moses, "Pass before the people, and take with you some of the elders of Israel, and your rod with which you smote the waterway take in your hand, and you will go. Behold me standing before you there, on the rock at Mount Horeb. You will smite the rock, and water will come forth from it, and the people will drink." Moses did so before the eyes of the elders of Israel. Hence he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, on account of the contention of the sons of Israel, and on account of their probing Yahweh, saying, "Is Yahweh among us, or is he not?" Then Amalek came and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moses said to Joshua, "Choose men for us, and go forth. Fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will be stationed on the summit of the hill with the rod of Elohim in my hand." Joshua did just as Moses said to him, to fight with Amalek. As for Moses, Aaron, and Hur, they ascended the summit of the hill. Now it came to be just as Moses was raising high his hands that Israel had the mastery, and just as he was giving his hands rest, then Amalek had the mastery. When the hands of Moses became heavy, they took a stone and placed it beneath him, and he sat on it. As for Aaron and Hur, they upheld his hands, one on this side and one on that side. So it came to be that his hands were constant until the sun set. Thus Joshua defeated Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. Then Yahweh said to Moses, "Write this as a reminder in a scroll, and charge it unto the ears of Joshua, that I shall wipe out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heavens." So Moses built an altar, and called its name Yahweh Nissi, and said, "For a hand is against the throne of Yah. Yahweh has a war with Amalek from generation to generation." Chapter 18. Jethro, the priest of Midian, father-in-law of Moses, heard of all that Elohim had done for Moses and for Israel, his people, when Yahweh had brought Israel forth from Egypt. Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, took Zipporah, the wife of Moses, after her dismissal, and her 2 sons, of whom the name of one was Gershom, for he had said, "A sojourner became I in a foreign land." And the name of the other one was Eleazar. For the Elohim of my father is my helper, and he rescued me from the sword of Pharaoh. Now Jethro, father-in-law of Moses and his sons and his wife, came to Moses, to the wilderness where he was encamping at the mount of the one, Elohim. And he sent word to Moses, "Behold, your father-in-law Jethro is coming to you, and your wife and her 2 sons with her." Then Moses went forth to meet his father-in-law, and he bowed himself down and kissed him. After they had asked, each man of his associate, concerning his well-being, then they came to the tent, and Moses related to his father-in-law all that Yahweh had done to Pharaoh and to Egypt concerning Israel, all the stress which found them along the way, and how Yahweh had rescued them. So Jethro was exhilarated over all the good which Yahweh had done to Israel, whom he had rescued from the hand of Egypt. Hence Jethro said, "Blessed be Yahweh, who has rescued you from the hand of Egypt and from the hand of Pharaoh, who has rescued the people from under the hand of Egypt. Now I know that Yahweh is greater than all the Elohim, yea, in the matter in which they were arrogant against them." Then Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, took an ascent offering along with sacrifices for Elohim, and Aaron and all the elders of Israel came to eat bread with the father-in-law of Moses before the one, Elohim. It came to be on the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people. So the people stood by Moses from morning until evening. When the father-in-law of Moses saw all that he was doing for the people, he said, "What is this matter that you are doing for the people? For what reason are you sitting by yourself alone with all the people stationing themselves by you from morning until evening?" Moses said to his father-in-law, "It is because the people are coming to me to inquire of Elohim. When they come to have a dispute, they come to me, and I judge between a man and his associate, and I make known to them the statutes of the one Elohim and his laws." The father-in-law of Moses said to him, "The thing which you are doing is not good. You are wearing out both yourself and this people who are with you, for this matter is too heavy for you. You cannot do it by yourself alone. Now hearken to my voice. Let me counsel you, and may Elohim come to be with you. Be you for the people toward the one, Elohim, and you bring the matters to the one, Elohim. You will warn them with the statutes and the laws, and make known to them the way in which they shall go, and the deeds which they shall do. Now you shall perceive among all the people men of ability, fearful of Elohim, men of truth, hating dishonest gain. You will place these over them as chiefs of thousands, chiefs of hundreds, chiefs of 50s, and chiefs of 10s. And they will judge the people in every season. Yet it will be that every great dispute they shall bring to you, and every small dispute shall they judge themselves. Lighten yourself from what is on you, and they will bear it with you. If you shall do this thing, then Elohim will instruct you further, so you can stand. Moreover, all this people, it shall come upon its place in peace. So Moses hearkened to the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he had said. Moses chose men of ability from all Israel and set them as heads over the people, chiefs of thousands, chiefs of hundreds, chiefs of 50s, and chiefs of 10s. They judged the people in every season. The hard dispute were they bringing to Moses, and every small dispute they were judging themselves. Then Moses dismissed his father-in-law, so he went by himself to his land. Chapter 19. In the 3rd month after the going forth of the sons of Israel from the land of Egypt, on this day they entered the wilderness of Sinai. When they journeyed from Rephidim and entered the wilderness of Sinai, then they encamped in the wilderness. While Israel encamped there in front of the mountain, Moses, he ascended to the one Elohim. Then Yahweh called to him from the mountain, saying, Thus shall you say to the house of Jacob and tell to the sons of Israel, You have seen what I did to the Egyptians when I bore you on vultures' wings and brought you to myself. Now, if you shall hearken, yea, hearken to my voice and observe my covenant, then you will become mine, a special possession, above all of the peoples, for mine is all the earth. As for you, you shall become mine, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak to the sons of Israel. So Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and he placed before them all these words which Yahweh had instructed him. Now all the people responded together and said, All that Yahweh speaks, we shall do. When Moses brought back the words of the people to Yahweh, then Yahweh said to Moses, Behold, I am coming to you in a thick cloud in order that the people shall hear when I speak with you, and moreover in you shall they believe for the eon. So Moses told the words of the people to Yahweh. Then Yahweh said to Moses, Go to the people, and you will hallow them today and tomorrow. Let them rinse their raiments, and come to be prepared for the 3rd day. For on the 3rd day Yahweh shall descend on Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. Also you will set a boundary for the people round about, saying, Guard yourselves concerning ascent into the mountain or touching its outmost part. Everyone touching the mountain shall be put to death. Yea, death. No hand shall touch him, for he shall be stoned, yea, stoned, or shot, yea, shot. Whether beast or man, he shall not live. When the alarm horn draws forth, they may ascend on to the mountain. So Moses descended from the mountain to the people. He hallowed the people, and they rinsed their raiments. Then he said to the people, Be prepared for 3 days. Do not come close to a woman. It came to be on the 3rd day, at the coming of the morning, that there came to be thunderclaps and flashes and a heavy cloud on the mount, and the sound of a trumpet, exceedingly steadfast, so that all the people who were in the camp trembled. Yet Moses brought the people forth from the camp to meet the one, Elohim. So they stationed themselves at the nether part of the mountain. As for Mount Sinai, all of it smoked in view of the fact that Yahweh descended on it in fire. Its smoke ascended as the smoke of a lime kiln, and the entire mountain trembled exceedingly. While the sound of the trumpet came to be growing and exceedingly steadfast, Moses, he was speaking, and the one, Elohim, he was answering him with a loud voice. Yahweh descended on Mount Sinai to the summit of the mountain. Then Yahweh called Moses to the summit of the mountain, and Moses ascended. Yahweh said to Moses, Descend. Testify to the people lest they demolish the boundaries to Yahweh in order to see, and many of them fall. Moreover, the priests who are coming close to Yahweh, they shall sanctify themselves lest Yahweh breach forth against them. Now Moses said to Yahweh, The people cannot ascend to Mount Sinai because you yourself testified to us, saying, Set a boundary about the mountain, and you will hallow it. Yahweh said to him, Go, descend. Then you will ascend, you and Aaron with you. Yet the priests and the people, they must not demolish the boundaries to ascend to Yahweh, lest he breach forth against them. So Moses descended to the people and spoke to them. Chapter 20. Elohim spoke all these words, saying, I, Yahweh, am your Elohim, who brought you forth from the land of Egypt, from the house of servants. There shall not come to be other Elohim for you in preference to me. You shall not make for yourself a carving nor any physical representation of that in the heavens above, or that on the earth beneath, or that in the waters beneath the earth. You shall not bow yourself down to them, nor be made to serve them. For I, Yahweh your Elohim, am a jealous El, visiting the depravity of the fathers on the sons, on the third and on the fourth generation, to those hating me, yet showing benignity to thousands, to those loving me and observing my instructions. You shall not take up the name of Yahweh your Elohim for futility, for Yahweh shall not hold innocent him who takes up his name for futility. You are to remember the Sabbath day to hallow it. 6 days shall you serve and do all your work, yet the seventh day is a Sabbath to Yahweh your Elohim. You shall not do any work, you, your son or your daughter, your manservant or your maidservant, your bull, your donkey or your beast, or your sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days Yahweh dealt with the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and he stopped on the seventh day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Glorify your father and your mother, that your days may be prolonged on the ground which Yahweh your Elohim is giving to you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not answer against your associate with false testimony. You shall not covet the house of your associate. You shall not covet the wife of your associate, his field, his manservant, or his maidservant, his bull, his donkey, or anything which is your associate's. All the people were discerning the thunderclaps and the torches, and the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking. And the people saw and roved about and stood afar. They said to Moses, "Speak you with us that we may hear. Yet Elohim must not speak with us, lest we die." Then Moses said to the people, "Do not fear, for in order to probe you the one, Elohim has come, and in order that the fear of him should come over your faces, that you may not sin." Then the people stood afar, yet Moses, he came close to the murkiness, where the one Elohim was. Yahweh said to Moses, "Thus shall you say to the sons of Israel, you yourselves have seen that from the heavens I have spoken with you. You shall not make anything beside me. No Elohim of silver or Elohim of gold shall you make for yourselves. An altar of soil of the ground shall you make for me, and you will sacrifice on it your ascent offerings and your peace offerings, your flock and your herd. In every place where I shall record my name I shall come to you, and I will bless you. And if you shall make an altar of stones for me, you shall not build it with them trimmed. In case you have swung your sword over it, then you have profaned it. And you shall not ascend on my altar by stairs, so that your nakedness be not exposed on it." Chapter 21. Now these are the ordinances which you shall place before them. When you buy a Hebrew servant, 6 years shall he serve you, and in the 7th he shall go forth free, gratuitously. If by himself he came, by himself he shall go forth. If he was the possessor of a wife, then his wife will go forth with him. Yet if his lord he should give him a wife, and she bears for him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall become her lord's, and he may go forth by himself. Yet if the servant should say, yea, say, I love my lord, my wife, and my sons, I shall not go forth free, then his lord will bring him close to the Elohim, and bring him close to the door, or to the jam, and his lord will bore his ear with an awl, and he will serve him for the eon. When a man sells his daughter as a maidservant, she shall not go forth as the manservants go forth. If she is displeasing in the eyes of her lord, who has appointed her for himself, then he will let her be ransomed. To a foreign people he shall not rule to sell her because of his treachery with her. If he is appointing her for his son, he shall deal with her as is customary with daughters. If he is taking another for himself, he shall not diminish her meat, her covering, and her cohabitation. If these 3 things he is not doing for her, then she will go forth gratuitously. There is no money paid. The smiter of a man who dies shall be put to death, yea, death. But if he had no malicious intent, yet the one, Elohim, he had fated him into his hand, then I set for you a place where he shall flee. Yet in case a man was planning arrogantly against his associate, so as to kill him by craft, from my altar shall you take him to die. The smiter of his father or his mother,
he shall be put to death, yea, death. He who steals a man, whether he sells him or he is found in his hand, he shall be put to death, yea, death. The one maledicting his father or his mother, he shall be put to death, yea, death. When men contend and a man smites his associate with a stone or with a fist, and he does not die yet falls into bed, then if he should rise and walk about outside on his support staff, the smiter is held innocent. But for his cessation he shall provide and shall make him heal, yea, heal. When a man smites his manservant or his maidservant with a club, and he dies under his hand, he shall be avenged, yea, avenged. Only if he stands a day or 2 days, he shall not be avenged, for he is his silver. When men strive together and strike a pregnant woman, and her child comes forth, and no mishap comes to be, he shall be fined, yea, fined, just as the woman's possessor shall impose on him, and he will pay through mediators. Yet if a mishap comes to be, then you will give soul for soul, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, scorching for scorching, injury for injury, welt for welt. When a man smites the eye of his manservant or the eye of his maidservant and ruins it, he shall dismiss him free for his eye. And if he causes a tooth of his manservant or a tooth of his maidservant to fall out, he shall dismiss him free for his tooth. When a bull gores a man or a woman and he dies, the bull shall be stoned, yea, stoned, and its flesh shall not be eaten. Yet the possessor of the bull shall be held innocent. But if it was a bull given to goring heretofore, and it was testified to its possessor, yet he did not keep it in, and it caused a man or a woman to die, the bull it shall be stoned, and moreover its possessor he shall be put to death. If a sheltering ransom is imposed on him, then he will give as a ransom for his soul according to all which is set on him. Whether it gores a son or gores a daughter, according to this custom shall it be done to him. If the bull gores a manservant or a maidservant, 30 shekels of silver shall he give to his lord, and the bull it shall be stoned. When a man opens a cistern, or when a man digs a cistern, yet does not cover it, and a bull or a donkey falls therein, the possessor of the cistern he shall repay. He shall restore silver to its possessor, and the dead beast shall become his. When a man's bull strikes the bull of his associate and it dies, then they will sell the living bull and divide the silver for it, and moreover they shall divide the dead one. Or when it is known that it was a bull given to goring heretofore, and its possessor did not keep it in, he shall repay, yea, repay bull for bull, and the dead one shall become his. Chapter 22. When a man steals a bull or a flockling and slaughters it or sells it, 5 oxen shall he repay for the bull, and 4 small cattle for the flockling. If the thief is found while burrowing and is smitten so that he dies, there is no blood guilt because of him. But if the sun has risen on him, there is blood guilt because of him. He shall repay, yea, repay. If he has nothing, then he will be sold for his theft. If the theft is found, yea, found alive in his hand, whether bull or donkey or flockling, he shall only repay double. When a man causes a field or a vineyard to be grazed down, and he lets his livestock go loose, so that it grazes down another's field, then from the best of his field and the best of his vineyard shall he repay. When fire goes forth and it finds thorns, and the shock or the raised grain or the whole field is devoured, the one causing the consuming fire to consume shall repay, yea, repay. When a man gives to his associates silver or articles to keep, and they are stolen from the man's house, if the thief is found, he shall repay double. If the thief is not found, then the possessor of the house will be brought near to the Elohim to show whether or not he has put forth his hand on the work of his associate. In every matter of transgression over a bull, over a donkey, over a flockling, over raiment, or over every lost thing which one says that this is it, unto the Elohim shall come the word of the 2 of them. Whom the Elohim shall condemn, he shall repay double to his associate. When a man gives to his associate a donkey or a bull, or a flockling or any beast to keep, and it dies or is broken or is captured without anyone seeing it, the oath of Yahweh, it shall come to be between them both to show whether or not he has put forth his hand on the property of his associate. Then its possessor will take it, and he shall not repay. But if it is stolen, yea, stolen from him, he shall repay its possessor. If it is torn to pieces, yea, torn to pieces, he shall bring the thing torn to pieces as testimony, and he shall not repay. When a man asks something from his associate, and it is broken or dies when its possessor is not with it, he shall repay, yea, repay. If its possessor was with it, he shall not repay. If it was hired, it came for its hire. In case a man entices a virgin who is not betrothed, and he lies with her, he shall pay, yea, pay her bride price as a wife for himself. If her father refuses, yea, refuses to give her to him, he shall weigh out silver according to the bride price for virgins. You shall not let an enchantress live. Anyone lying with a beast, he shall be put to death, yea, death. Anyone sacrificing to any Elohim, he is doomed, unless it be to Yahweh, to him alone. As for the sojourner, you shall not tyrannize nor oppress him, for you came to be sojourners in the land of Egypt. Any widow or orphan you shall not humiliate. If you humiliate, yea, humiliate him. In case he should cry, yea, cry to me, I shall hear, yea, hear his cry. And my anger will grow hot, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives will become widows, and your sons orphans. If you obligate my people, the humble with you, with silver, you shall not be as a moneylender to him. You shall not impose interest on him. If you take in pledge, yea, in pledge the raiment of your associate, previous to sunset you shall restore it to him, for it is his only covering. It is his raiment for his skin. Wherein shall he lie? When it comes to be that he is crying to me, then I will hear, for I am gracious. You shall not maledict the Elohim, and a prince among your people you shall not curse. You shall not delay to offer from your fullness and your fruit juice. The firstborn of your sons shall you give to me. So shall you do with your bull, with your flock, and your donkey. 7 days it shall be with its mother. On the 8th day shall you give it to me. You shall come to be holy men for me, so you shall not eat flesh torn to pieces in the field. You shall fling it to the dog. Chapter 23. You shall not carry an unfounded report. Do not set your hand with a wicked man to become a malicious witness. You shall not come after the many to do evil, and you shall not respond in a contested matter to turn aside after the many, to turn aside right judgment. Neither shall you favorably honor the poor man in his contested matter. In case you come upon the bull of your enemy or his donkey going astray, you shall return, yea, return it to him. In case you see the donkey of one hating you reclining under its load, then you will halt from forsaking him with it. You shall set free, yea, set it free along with him. You shall not turn aside the judgment of your needy one in his contested matter. From a false charge you shall keep far, and the innocent and the righteous one you must not kill, for I shall not justify the wicked one. You shall not take a bribe, for the bribe is blinding the unclosed eyes and is subverting the words of the righteous. You shall not oppress a sojourner, for you know the soul of the sojourner. For you came to be sojourners in the land of Egypt. 6 years shall you sow your land, and you will gather its yield. But in the 7th you shall release it and abandon it, that the needy of your people may eat, and the field animal shall eat their leavings. So shall you do with your vineyard and with your olive trees. 6 days shall you do your tasks, and on the 7th day you shall cease, that your bull and your donkey may rest, and the son of your maidservant and the sojourner be refreshed. You shall beware in all that I say to you, and the name of other Elohim you shall not mention. Let it not be heard coming out of your mouth. 3 times shall you celebrate to me in the year. You shall observe the festival of unleavened bread. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread, just as I instructed you at the appointed time in the month of Abib. For in it you went forth from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty-handed. Also observe the festival of the harvest of the first fruits of your yields, from what you are sowing in the field. And observe the festival of ingathering at the going forth of the year, when you gather your yields from the field. 3 times in the year every male of you shall appear before the Lord Yahweh. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with what is leavened, nor shall the fat of my festival lodge until the morning. You shall bring the beginning of the first fruits of your ground to the house of Yahweh your Elohim. You shall not cook a kid in the milk of its mother. Behold, I shall be sending a messenger before you to keep you in the way and to bring you to the place which I have prepared. Guard yourself in view of him and hearken to his voice. Do not embitter him, for he shall not bear with your transgression, for my name is within him. in case you should hearken, yea, hearken to his voice, and do all that I am speaking, then I will be enemy of your enemies, and I will be foe of your foes. For my messenger shall go before you, and he will bring you to the Amorite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Canaanite, the Girgashite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, and I will suppress them. You shall not bow yourself down to their Elohim, nor be made to serve them, nor shall you do according to their deeds. For you shall demolish, yea, demolish them, and break down, yea, break down their monuments. You will serve Yahweh your Elohim, and he will bless your bread and your water. And I will take away illness from among you. None shall come to be miscarrying or barren in your land. I shall make the number of your days full. I shall send the dread of me before you. I will discomfit all the people against whom you shall come, and I will make all your enemies turn the nape of their necks to you. I will send the hornet before you, and it will drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite from before you. I shall not drive them out from before you in 1 year, lest the land should become desolate, and the field animal be many against you. Little by little shall I drive them out from before you until you are fruitful, and you are allotted the land. And I will set your boundary from the sea of weeds unto the sea of the Philistines, and from the wilderness unto the stream. For I shall give into your hand the dwellers of the land, and you will drive them out from your presence. You shall not contract a covenant with them or with their Elohim. They shall not dwell in your land, lest they should make you sin against me, so that you serve their Elohim, and that it should come to be a trap for you. Chapter 24. Then to Moses he said, Ascend to Yahweh, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and you will bow yourselves down from afar. Yet Moses, he alone will come close to Yahweh, but they shall not come close. And the people, they shall not ascend with him. So Moses came and related to the people all the words of Yahweh and all the ordinances. Then all the people responded with one voice and said, All the words which Yahweh has spoken we shall do. Now Moses wrote all the words of Yahweh, and he rose early in the morning and built an altar below the mountain and 12 stone monuments for the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent youths of the sons of Israel, and they brought up ascent offerings and sacrificed young bulls as peace offerings to Yahweh. Moses took half of the blood and put it in goblets, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the scroll of the covenant and read it in the ears of the people. So they said, All that Yahweh has spoken we shall do and hearken to. Now Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people and said, Behold the blood of the covenant which Yahweh contracts with you concerning all these words. Then Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel ascended. And they saw the Elohim of Israel, and beneath his feet as it were a work of sapphire tiling, as the very heavens for purity. To the selectmen of the sons of Israel he put not forth his hand, and they perceived the one, Elohim, and ate and drank. Yahweh said to Moses, Ascend to me to the mountain and be there, and I shall give to you the stone tablets, the law, and the instructions which I wrote to direct them. So Moses and Joshua, his minister, rose, and Moses ascended to the mountain of the one, Elohim. And to the elders he said, Wait for us in this place until we return to you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. Anyone who has matters, let him come close to them. When Moses ascended to the mountain, the cloud covered the mountain, and the glory of Yahweh tabernacled over Mount Sinai. The cloud covered it 6 days. Then Yahweh called to Moses on the 7th day from the midst of the cloud. Now the appearance of the glory of Yahweh was like a devouring fire on the summit of the mountain to the eyes of the sons of Israel. So Moses entered into the midst of the cloud and ascended onto the mountain. Moses came to be on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. Chapter 25. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel that they take for me a heave offering. From every man whose heart is willing shall you take my heave offering. And this is the heave offering which you shall take from them: gold, silver, and copper, blue, purple, and double-dipped crimson, cambric and goat's hair, red and ram's hides and azure hides and acacia boards, oil for the luminary, aromatics for the anointing oil and for the incense of spices, stones of onyx and setting stones for the ephod and for the breastplate. Thus they will make for me a sanctuary, and I will tabernacle in their midst. According to all that I am showing you, the model of the tabernacle and the model of all its furnishings, thus shall you make it. They will make a coffer of acacia boards, 2 cubits and a half its length, and a cubit and a half its width, and a cubit and a half its rise. You will overlay it. With pure gold inside and outside shall you overlay it. You will make on it a flange of gold round about. You will cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them on its 4 footings, with 2 rings on its one angle wall, and 2 rings on its second angle wall. You will make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold, and insert the poles in the rings on the angle walls of the coffer to carry the coffer with them. The poles shall come to be in the rings of the coffer. They shall not be withdrawn from it. You will put the testimony which I shall give to you into the coffer. You will make a propitiatory shelter of pure gold, 2 cubits and a half its length, and a cubit and a half its width. You will make 2 cherubim of gold. You shall hammer them a stiff shell of 1 piece with the 2 ends of the propitiatory shelter. Make 1 cherub from this end, and 1 cherub from that end. Of 1 piece with the propitiatory shelter, you shall make the cherubim at its 2 ends. The cherubim will come to be with spreading wings above, overshadowing with their wings over the propitiatory shelter, with their faces each to his fellow. Toward the propitiatory shelter, the faces of the cherubim shall come to be. Then you will put the propitiatory shelter on the coffer from above, and you shall put the testimony which I shall give to you into the coffer. I will keep appointment with you there, and I will speak with you above the propitiatory shelter from between the 2 cherubim, which are over the coffer of the testimony of all which I am instructing you for the sons of Israel. You will make a table of acacia boards, 2 cubits its length, and a cubit its width, and a cubit and a half its rise. You will overlay it with pure gold, and make for it a flange of gold round about. You will make for it a border of a handbreadth round about, and make a flange of gold for its border round about. You will make for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings on the 4 edges, which are for its 4 feet. The rings shall come to correspond with the border for housings, for the poles to carry the table. You will make the poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold, and the table will be carried by them. You will make its dishes, and its spoons, and its chalices, and its sacrificial bowls, with which libations are made. Of pure gold shall you make them. Then you will put the bread of the presence on the table before me regularly. You will make the lampstand of pure gold. Of a stiff shell shall the lampstand be made, its stem and its tube. Its cones, its spheres, and its buds shall come out from it. 6 tubes shall come forth from its sides. 3 tubes of the lampstand from its one side, and 3 tubes of the lampstand from its second side. 3 almond-shaped cones shall be on the one tube, a sphere and a bud, and 3 almond-shaped cones on the other tube, a sphere and a bud. Thus for the 6 tubes coming forth from the lampstand. On the lampstand itself shall be 4 almond-shaped cones, its spheres and its buds, and a sphere under 2 of the tubes from it, and a sphere under 2 of the tubes from it, and a sphere under 2 of the tubes from it. So for the 6 tubes coming forth from the lampstand, and their spheres and their tubes shall be of 1 piece with it, all of it of 1 stiff shell of pure gold. You will make it 7 lamps, and 1 will set up its lamps, so that it gives light over across its face. Its snuffers and its fire pans shall be of pure gold. Of a talent of pure gold shall you make it with all these furnishings, and see that you make it by their model which is being shown you on the mount. Chapter 26. The tabernacle you shall make with 10 sheets of corded cambric and blue, purple, and double-dipped crimson. With cherubim in the handiwork of a designer shall you make them. The length of 1 sheet shall be 28 cubits, and the width 4 cubits for 1 sheet. 1 measure shall be for all the sheets. 5 of the sheets they shall be joining each to its fellow, and the 5 other sheets joining each to its fellow. You will make loops of blue on the hem of the 1 sheet at the end of the joining, and so shall you make in the hem of the endmost sheet at the second joining. 50 loops shall you make in 1 sheet, and 50 loops shall you make in the end of the sheet which shall be at the second joining, for the loops to be receiving each with its fellow. Then you will make 50 links of gold, and join the sheets, each to its fellow, by the links, and the tabernacle will come to be one. You will make sheets of goat's hair for the tent over the tabernacle. 11 sheets shall you make them. The length of 1 sheet shall be 30 cubits, and the width 4 cubits for 1 sheet, 1 measure for the 11 sheets. You will join 5 of the sheets by themselves, and 6 of the sheets by themselves. And you will double the 6th sheet on the forefront face of the tent. You will make 50 loops on the hem of the one endmost sheet at the joining, and 50 loops on the hem of the sheet at the second joining. You will make 50 copper links and insert the links into the loops and join the tent so that it will come to be one. The extending superfluity of the sheets of the tent, the half-sheet superfluity, shall extend over the back of the tabernacle. The cubit on this side and the cubit on that side, in the superfluity in the length of the sheets of the tent, shall come to be extended over the sides of the tabernacle on this side and on that side to cover it. Then you will make a cover for the tent of red and ram's hides, and a cover of azure hides above. You will make the hollow tapers for the tabernacle of standing acacia boards. 10 cubits shall be the length of one hollow taper, and a cubit and a half cubit the width of one hollow taper. 2 sloping sideboards shall there be to one hollow taper, being projected each to its fellow. Thus shall you do for all the hollow tapers of the tabernacle. You will make the hollow tapers for the tabernacle, 20 hollow tapers for the edge toward the Negeb, southward, and 40 sockets of silver shall you make under the 20 hollow tapers, 2 sockets under one hollow taper for its 2 sloping sideboards, and 2 sockets under another hollow taper for its 2 sloping sideboards. Also for the second angle wall of the tabernacle for the north edge, you shall make 20 hollow tapers, with their 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one hollow taper, and 2 sockets under another hollow taper. Yet for the flanks of the tabernacle westward shall you make 6 hollow tapers, and 2 hollow tapers shall you make for the cut-out corners of the tabernacle in the flanks. Then couplings shall come to be below, and they shall come to be coupled together on its top by one ring. Thus shall it come to be for the 2 of them. For the 2 cut-out corners shall they come to be. There will come to be 8 hollow tapers, and their silver sockets, 16 sockets, 2 sockets under one hollow taper, and 2 sockets under another hollow taper. You will make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the hollow tapers of one angle wall of the tabernacle, also 5 bars for the hollow tapers of the second angle wall of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the hollow tapers of the angle wall, for the flanks of the tabernacle westward, and the middle bar in the midst of the hollow tapers reaching from end to end. The hollow tapers shall you overlay with gold, and their rings shall you make of gold as housings for the bars, and you will overlay the bars with gold. Then you will set up the tabernacle according to its layout which you are shown on the mount. You will make a curtain of blue, purple, double-dipped crimson, and corded cambric. In the handiwork of a designer shall you make it with cherubim. You will put it on 4 columns of acacia overlaid with gold, with their hooks of gold, on 4 sockets of silver. And you will put the curtain under the links. Then you will bring there, inside the curtain, the coffer of the testimony. The curtain will separate for you between the holy place and the Holy of Holies, and you will put the propitiatory shelter on the coffer of the testimony in the Holy of Holies. Yet you will place the table outside the curtain and the lampstand opposite the table at the angle wall of the tabernacle southward. The table you shall put at the north angle wall. You will make a portiere for the opening of the tent of blue, purple, double-dipped crimson, and corded cambric, a handiwork of embroidery. You will make for the portiere 5 columns of acacia, and overlay them with gold, and their hooks with gold, and you will cast for them 5 sockets of copper. Chapter 27. You will make the altar of acacia boards, 5 cubits the length and 5 cubits the width. The altar shall come to be square, and its rise shall be 3 cubits. You will make its horns on its 4 corners. Its horns shall be of one piece with it, and you will overlay it with copper. You will make its pots for its greasy ash, and its shovels, its sprinkling bowls, its forks, and its firepans. All its furnishings shall you make of copper. You will make for it a grate, a handiwork of copper net, and make on the net 4 rings of copper on its 4 ends. You will put it beneath the encompassment of the altar from below, so that the net comes as far as halfway up the altar. You will make poles for the altar, poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with copper. Then you will insert its poles in the rings, and the poles will come to be on the 2 angle walls of the altar when carrying it. Hollow of planks shall you make it. Just as one shows you on the mount, so shall they do. You will make the court of the tabernacle. For the Negeb edge southward, the slung sheets for the court shall be of corded cambric, 100 cubits long for the one edge, with its 20 columns and their 20 copper sockets, the hooks of the columns in their connections of silver. And so for the north edge, in the length of the court, the slung sheets shall be 100 cubits long with its 20 columns and their 20 copper sockets, the hooks of the columns, and their connections of silver. For the width of the court for the west edge, the slung sheets shall be 50 cubits with their 10 columns and their 10 sockets. The width of the court for the eastward edge toward the sunrise shall be 50 cubits. 15 cubits of slung sheets shall be for one flank with their 3 columns and their 3 sockets. And for the second flank, 15 cubits of slung sheets with their 3 columns and their 3 sockets. For the gate of the court shall be a portiere of 20 cubits of blue, purple, double-dipped crimson and corded cambric, a handiwork of embroidery with their 4 columns and their 4 sockets. On all the columns around the court, the connections shall be of silver, their hooks of silver, and their sockets of copper. The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, and the width 50 by 50, and its rise 5 cubits of corded cambric and their copper sockets. All the furnishings of the tabernacle for all its service and all its pegs, and all the pegs of the court shall be of copper. As for you, you shall instruct the sons of Israel that they shall take to you clear olive oil, pounded for the luminary, to kindle the lamp regularly. In the tent of appointment, outside of the curtain which shall be over the testimony, Aaron and his sons shall arrange it from evening until morning before Yahweh. It shall be an Aeonian statute throughout their generations, for the sons of Israel. Chapter 28. You bring near to you Aaron your brother and his sons with him, from the midst of the sons of Israel, to serve as priests for me, Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar, sons of Aaron. You will make holy garments for Aaron your brother, for glory and for beauty, and you shall speak to all the wise of heart, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they make the garments of Aaron to hallow him to serve as priest for me. These are the garments which they shall make: a breastplate, an ephod, a robe, a lined tunic, a turban, and a sash. They will make holy garments for Aaron your brother, and for his sons to serve as priests for me. They shall take the gold, the blue, the purple, the double-dipped crimson, and the cambric. They will make the ephod of gold, blue, purple, double-dipped crimson, and corded cambric, the handiwork of a designer. 2 joining shoulder pieces shall be for it, on both its ends where it is made to join. And the design band of his ephod, which shall be on it, shall be like its handiwork of one piece with it, of gold, blue, purple, double-dipped crimson, and corded cambric. Then you will take 2 onyx stones and engrave on them the names of the sons of Israel, 6 of their names on the one stone, and the 6 names left on the second stone, according to their genealogical records. With the handiwork of lapidary, as the engravings of a seal, shall you engrave the 2 stones with the names of the sons of Israel. You shall make them set round about with mountings of gold filigree. Then you will set the 2 stones on the shoulder pieces of the ephod as memorial stones for the sons of Israel. And Aaron will bear their names before Yahweh on his 2 shoulder pieces for remembrance. You will make the mountings of gold filigree with 2 braids of pure gold. You shall make them to be boundaries, a handiwork of rope, and you will put the braided ropes on the mountings. You will make the breastplate of judgment, the handiwork of a designer. Like the handiwork of the ephod shall you make it. Of gold, blue, purple, double-dipped crimson, and corded cambric shall you make it. Squared shall it come to be when doubled, a span its length and a span its width. You will fill it with a filling of stone, 4 rows of stones, a row of carnelian, peridot, and emerald, 1 row, and the second row of carbuncle, sapphire, and diamond, and the third row of jacinth, agate, and amethyst, and the 4th row of topaz, onyx, and jasper. Mounted in gold filigree shall they be in their fillings. The stones, they shall come to be 12, with their names according to the names of the sons of Israel. As the engravings of a seal, each with its name, shall they come to be for the 12 tribes. You will make on the breastplate boundaries of braid, a handiwork of rope, of pure gold. You will make 2 rings of gold on the breastplate and put the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. You will put the 2 ropes of gold on the 2 rings at the ends of the breastplate, and the 2 ends of the 2 ropes you shall put on the 2 mountings, and so you will put them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod to its forefront view. You will make 2 rings of gold and place them on the 2 ends of the breastplate, on its hem which shall be across the ephod, inside. You will make 2 rings of gold and put them on the 2 shoulder pieces of the ephod below its forefront view, to correspond with its joining above to the design band of the ephod. Then they shall lace the breastplate by its rings to the rings of the ephod with blue twine, to come to be over the design band of the ephod, so that the breastplate not be displaced from the ephod. Thus Aaron will bear the names of the sons of Israel in the breastplate of judgment over his heart, when he enters into the holy place, for a continual remembrance before Yahweh. You will put the Urim and the Thummim into the breastplate of judgment, and they will come to be on Aaron's heart when he enters before Yahweh. Thus Aaron will bear the judgment of the sons of Israel on his heart before Yahweh continually. You will make the robe of the ephod wholly of blue, and there will come to be a slit for his head in its midst. A hem shall be around its slit, a handiwork of a weaver. As the slit of a coat of mail shall it be to it, so that it not be torn. Then on its skirts you will make pomegranates of blue, purple, double-dipped crimson, and corded cambric on its skirts round about, and bells of gold in their midst round about. A bell of gold and a pomegranate, a bell of gold and a pomegranate, on the skirt of the robe round about. Thus it will come to be on Aaron for ministering, and its sound will be heard when he enters into the holy place before Yahweh, and when he goes forth, so that he should not die. You will make a blossom of pure gold, and engrave on it like engravings of a seal, holy to Yahweh. You will place it on blue twine, and it will come to be on the turban. On the forefront of the face of the turban shall it come to be. It will come to be on the forehead of Aaron. Thus Aaron will bear the depravity of the holy things which the sons of Israel shall sanctify for all their holy gifts. And it will come to be on his forehead continually for their acceptance before Yahweh. You will line the tunic with cambric, and you will make a turban of cambric. In a sash shall you make, a handiwork of embroidery. Also you shall make tunics for the sons of Aaron. Then you will make sashes for them, and you shall make caps for them, for glory and for beauty. You will put them on Aaron, your brother, and his sons with him, and you will anoint them. You will consecrate them and hallow them, and they will serve as priests for me. Also, make for them linen breeches to cover the naked flesh. From the waist and unto the thighs shall they come to be, and they will come to be on Aaron and on his sons when they enter into the tent of appointment, or when they come close to the altar to minister in the holy place, so that they may not bear depravity and should die. It is an Aeonian statute for him and for his seed after him. Chapter 29. This is the thing that you shall do to them, to hallow them, to serve as priests for me. Take 1 bull calf of the herd and 2 flawless rams, unleavened bread and unleavened perforated cakes mingled with oil, and unleavened wafers anointed with oil. Of wheat flour shall you make them. You will put them on 1 tray and bring them near in the tray with the young bull and the 2 rams. Then you shall bring Aaron and his sons near to the opening of the tent of appointment, and you will wash them in water. You will take the garments and put on Aaron the tunic and the robe of the vestment, and the ephod and the breastplate, and you will invest him with the design band of the ephod. You will place the turban on his head and put the holy insignia on the turban. Also you will take the anointing oil and pour it on his head and anoint him. And you shall bring his sons near and put tunics on them. Then you will gird them with sashes, Aaron and his sons, and bind up caps on them, so that the priesthood comes to be theirs for an Aeonian statute when you have consecrated Aaron and his sons. You will bring the young bull near before the tent of appointment, and Aaron and his sons will support their hands on the head of the young bull. You will slay the young bull before Yahweh at the opening of the tent of appointment. Take some of the blood of the young bull and put it on the horns of the altar with your finger. And you shall pour out all the rest of the blood at the foundation of the altar. Then you will take all the fat covering the inwards, and the redundance above the liver and the 2 kidneys, and the fat which is on them, and you will cause them to fume on the altar. Yet the flesh of the young bull, and its hide and its dung, shall you burn with fire outside the camp. A sin offering is it. You shall take 1 ram, and Aaron and his sons will support their hands on the head of the ram. You will slay the ram, take its blood, and sprinkle it on the altar round about. You shall piece the ram into its pieces, and you will wash its inwards and its shanks, and put them on its pieces and on its head. Then you will cause all of the ram to fume on the altar. And a scent offering is it to Yahweh. It is a fragrant odor, a fire offering to Yahweh. Then you will take the 2nd ram, and Aaron and his sons will support their hands on the head of the ram. You will slay the ram, take some of its blood, and put it on the lobe of Aaron's right ear, and on the lobes of the right ears of his sons, and on the thumbs of their right hands, and on the big toes of their right feet. And you will sprinkle the blood on the altar round about. Then you will take some of the blood which is on the altar, and some of the anointing oil, and spatter it on Aaron, and on his garments, and on his sons, and on the garments of his sons with him, so that he will be holy, he and his garments, and his sons and the garments of his sons with him. You will take from the ram the fat tail, and the fat covering the inwards, and the redundance above the liver and the 2 kidneys, and the fat which is on them, and the right leg, for it is a ram of consecrations, and 1 loaf of bread, and 1 perforated cake of oiled bread, and 1 wafer from the tray of unleavened bread, which is before Yahweh. You will place the whole on the palms of Aaron and on the palms of his sons, and wave them for a wave offering before Yahweh. Then you will take them from their hands and cause them to fume on the altar on top of the ascent offering for a fragrant odor before Yahweh. It is a fire offering to Yahweh. You will take the chest of the ram of consecrations, which is for Aaron, and wave it as a wave offering before Yahweh, and it will come to be your assigned share. Then you will hallow the chest of the wave offering and the leg of the heave offering, what is waved and what is heaved from the ram of consecrations, which is for Aaron and which is for his sons. It will come to be for Aaron and for his sons as an Eonian statute from the sons of Israel. For it is a heave offering, and it shall become a heave offering from the sons of Israel, from their peace offerings, their heave offering to Yahweh. The holy garments which are Aaron's shall become his sons after him, to be anointed in them and to consecrate them in them. 7 days one of his sons, whoever is priest in his stead, he who comes into the tent of appointment to minister in the holy place, shall put them on. The ram of consecrations shall you take, and you will cook its flesh in a holy place. And Aaron and his sons will eat the flesh of the ram and the bread which is in the tray at the opening of the tent of appointment. They will eat them, by which a propitiatory shelter was made to consecrate them, to hallow them. Yet an alien shall not eat them, for they are holy. And if something be left of the flesh of consecrations, or of the bread until the morning, then you will burn that leftover with fire. It shall not be eaten, for it is holy. You will do thus for Aaron and for his sons according to all that I have instructed you. 7 days shall you consecrate them. A young bull as a sin offering shall you offer day by day for propitiatory shelters. You will make a sin offering on the altar when you make your propitiatory shelter on it, and you will anoint it to hallow it. 7 days shall you make a propitiatory shelter on the altar, and you will hallow it. Thus the altar becomes a holy of holies. All that touches the altar shall be holy. This is what you shall offer on the altar: 2 he-lambs, a year-old, day by day regularly. The 1 he-lamb shall you offer in the morning, and the 2nd he-lamb shall you offer between the evening hours. Also 1/10 of an ephah of flour, mingled with 1/4 of a hin of pounded oil, and a libation of 1/4 of a hin of wine for the 1 lamb. And the 2nd lamb you shall offer between the evening hours. As the morning approach present, and as its libation shall you offer it, for a fragrant odor, a fire offering to Yahweh, a regular ascent offering throughout your generations, at the opening of the tent of appointment, before Yahweh, where I shall keep appointment with you to speak to you there. And I will keep appointment there with the sons of Israel, and it will be hallowed by my glory. Thus I will hallow the tent of appointment and the altar, and Aaron and his sons shall I hallow to serve as priests for me. I will tabernacle in the midst of the sons of Israel, and will become their Elohim. Then they will realize that I am Yahweh, their Elohim, who brought them forth from the land of Egypt, that I may tabernacle in their midst. I am Yahweh, their Elohim. Chapter 30. You will make the altar for fuming incense. Of acacia boards shall you make it. A cubit shall be its length, and a cubit its width. Square it shall be, and 2 cubits its rise. Its horns are of one piece with it. You will overlay it with pure gold, its top surface, and around its side walls and its horns. And you will make for it a flange of gold round about. 2 rings of gold shall you make for it. Beneath its flange, on its 2 angle walls shall you make them, on its 2 sides. And they shall be for housings for the poles, to carry it with them. You will make the poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. And you will put it before the curtain which shall be by the coffer of the testimony, before the propitiatory shelter which shall be on the testimony, where I shall keep appointment with you. Aaron will cause incense of spices to fume on it morning by morning. When making the lamps good, he shall cause it to fume. And when Aaron sets up the lamps between the evening hours, he shall cause it to fume as incense regularly before Yahweh throughout your generations. You shall not set up on it an alien incense, or an ascent offering, or an approach present, and a libation you shall not libate on it. Aaron will make a propitiatory shelter on its horns once in the year, with the blood of the sin offering of the propitiatory shelter. Once in the year shall he make a propitiatory shelter on it throughout your generations. It shall be a holy of holies to Yahweh. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, When you take up the sum of the sons of Israel by their mustered ones, then each man will give a sheltering ransom for his soul to Yahweh while one is mustering them, so that no stroke may come among them when mustering them. This shall they give, everyone passing over to the ones being mustered, a half shekel by the shekel of the holy place, which is 20 gerahs to the shekel. The half shekel shall be a heave offering to Yahweh. Everyone passing over to the ones being mustered from 20 years old and upward shall give Yahweh's heave offering. The rich one, he shall not increase it, and the poor one, he shall not decrease it from half a shekel, to give as Yahweh's heave offering to shelter your souls. You will take the sheltering ransom silver from the sons of Israel and give it to the service of the tent of appointment, that it become for the sons of Israel a memorial before Yahweh to shelter your souls. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, You will make a laver of bronze and its post of bronze for washing, and put it between the tent of appointment and the altar, and put water therein, that Aaron and his sons will wash their hands and their feet from it. Whenever they enter into the tent of appointment, they shall wash with water so that they should not die, or when they come close to the altar to minister, to fume incense by fire to Yahweh. Then they will wash their hands and their feet, so that they should not die. It will become to them an Aeonian statute for him and his seed throughout their generations. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, As for you, take to yourself the principal aromatics of free-flowing myrrh 500 shekels worth, and of aromatic cinnamon half of it, 250, and of aromatic reed 250, and of cassia 500 by the shekel of the holy place, and of olive oil a hin, and you will make of it a holy anointing oil, a compounded ointment, the handiwork of a compounder. A holy anointing oil shall it be. With it you will anoint the tent of appointment and the coffer of the testimony, the table and all its furnishings, the lampstand and its furnishings, and the altar of incense, the altar of a scent offering and all its furnishings, the laver and its post. You will hallow them, so that they become a holy of holies. All that touches them shall be holy. Aaron and his sons shall you anoint, and you will hallow them to serve as priests for me. And to the sons of Israel shall you speak, saying, A holy anointing oil shall this become to me throughout your generations. On the flesh of common humanity it shall not be rubbed, and by its recipe you shall not make such as it. It is holy. Holy shall it become to you. The man who compounds such as it, and who gives any of it to an alien, he will be cut off from his people. Yahweh said to Moses, Take to yourself spices, stacta, murex shell, and galbanum, spices with clear frankincense. Component by component shall it be, and you will make of it an incense, a compound of the handiwork of a compounder, salted, clean, holy. Then you will reduce to powder some of it, pulverized, and put it before the testimony in the tent of appointment, where I shall keep appointment with you. A holy of holies shall it become to you. Yet the incense which you shall make by its recipe, you shall not make for yourselves. Holy shall it be to you for Yahweh. The man who makes such as it to smell of it, he will be cut off from his people. Chapter 31. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, See, I call by name Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur of the stock of Judah. I shall fill him with the spirit of Elohim, with wisdom and with understanding and with knowledge, in all workmanship, to design designs, to make them in gold, in silver, and in copper, and as a lapidary for setting stones, and as an artificer in wood for making all kind of work. And I, behold, I give him a Holiab son of Ahisamach of the stock of Dan. In the heart of all the wise of heart I have given wisdom, that they will make all that I have instructed you. The tent of appointment, and the coffer for the testimony, with the propitiatory shelter which shall be on it, and all the furnishings of the tent, the table with its furnishings, the pure lampstand with all its furnishings, and the altar of incense, the altar of ascent offering with all its furnishings, the laver and its post, also the colored garments and the holy garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments of his sons to serve as priests, then the anointing oil and the incense of spices for the holy place. According to all that I have instructed you shall they do. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, Now you speak to the sons of Israel, saying, Surely my Sabbath shall you keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, to know that I am Yahweh, who is hallowing you. Hence you will keep the Sabbath, for it is holy to you. Profaners of it shall be put to death, yea, death. For if anyone is doing work in it, that soul will be cut off from among his people. 6 days shall work be done, and on the 7th day is a Sabbath of cessation, holy to Yahweh. Everyone doing work on the Sabbath day shall be put to death, yea, death. Hence the sons of Israel will keep the Sabbath, so as to make the Sabbath an Aeonian covenant throughout their generations. Between me and the sons of Israel it shall be a sign for the Aeon. For in 6 days Yahweh dealt with the heavens and the earth, and on the 7th day he ceased and was refreshed. He gave to Moses, as he finished speaking with him on Mount Sinai, 2 tablets of the testimony, tablets of stone, written with the finger of Elohim. Chapter 32. The people saw that Moses was tardy to descend from the mountain. So the people assembled themselves against Aaron and said to him, Rise, make for us Elohim who shall go before us. For this Moses, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we know not what has become of him. Then Aaron said to them, Tear off the pendants of gold that are in the ears of your wives, your sons and your daughters, and bring them to me. So all the people tore off the pendants of gold that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. He took the gold from their hands and formed it with a graving tool and made of it a molten calf. And they said, These are your Elohim, Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt. When Aaron discerned this, he built an altar before it. Then Aaron called out and said, A festival to Yahweh tomorrow. So they rose early on the morrow and brought up ascent offerings and brought close peace offerings. And the people sat to eat and drink, and they rose to make fun. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, Go down, for your people whom you brought up from the land of Egypt have become corrupt. They have withdrawn quickly from the way which I instructed them. They have made for themselves a molten calf and bowed themselves down to it. They sacrificed to it and said, These are your Elohim Israel, who brought you up from the land of Egypt. And Yahweh said to Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, they are a stiff-necked people. And now leave it to me, that my anger may grow hot against them, so that I may finish them, and I shall make you into a great nation. Then Moses beseeched the face of Yahweh his Elohim, and said, Why, O Yahweh, has your anger grown hot against your people, whom you have brought forth from the land of Egypt with great vigor and with a steadfast hand? Why should the Egyptians speak, saying, For evil he brings them forth to kill them in the mountains, and to finish them off the surface of the ground? Turn back from the heat of your anger, and show mercy concerning the evil to your people. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants to whom you swore by yourself. You spoke to them, saying, I shall increase your seed as the stars of the heavens, and all this land, as I have said, I shall give it to your seed, and they will gain it as an allotment for the Aeon. So Yahweh showed mercy concerning the evil which he spoke of doing to his people. Then Moses turned around and descended from the mountain with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hands, tablets written on 2 sides across them. On this and on that side were they written. And the tablets, they were the handiwork of Elohim, and the writing, it was the writing of Elohim chiseled on the tablets. When Joshua heard the voice of the people in their shouting, he said to Moses, The sound of battle is in the camp. Yet he said, There is no sound of the responsive mastery, and there is no sound of the responsive defeat. The sound of responsive singing I hear. And it came to be just as he drew near to the camp and saw the calf and the choruses that Moses' anger grew hot. And he flung from his hands the tablets and broke them below the mountain. Then he took the calf which they had made, burned it with fire, and ground it until it was pulverized. He winnowed it upon the surface of the water and made the sons of Israel drink it. Moses said to Aaron, "What has this people done to you that you have brought on them a great sin?" And Aaron said, "The anger of my Lord must not grow hot. You know the people that they are unbridled. For they said to me, 'Make Elohim for us who shall go before us. For this Moses, the man who brought us up from the land of Egypt, we know not what has become of him.' And I said to them, 'Anyone who has gold, tear it off yourself.' So they gave it to me, and I flung it into the fire, and this calf came forth. When Moses saw the people that they were unbridled, that Aaron had let them become unbridled unto disrepute among those rising against them, then Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, 'Whoever is for Yahweh, come to me.' So all the sons of Levi gathered themselves to him, and he said to them, 'Thus says Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, each man place his sword on his thigh, cross over, and return from gate to gate in the camp. Each man kill his brother, and each man his associate, and each man his near friend.' The sons of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and there fell of the people in that day about 3,000 men. Hence Moses said, 'Consecrate yourselves today to Yahweh, for each man has been against his son and against his brother, that a blessing may be given over you today.' It came to be after the morrow that Moses said to the people, 'You have sinned a great sin, and now I am going up to Yahweh. Perhaps I may make a propitiatory shelter about your sin.' So Moses returned to Yahweh and said, 'Oh, this people has sinned a great sin, and they made for themselves an Elohim of gold. And now if you should bear their sin, bear it. Yet if not, wipe me, I pray, from your scroll which you have written.' Yahweh said to Moses, 'Anyone who has sinned against me, I shall wipe him from my scroll. And now go, guide the people to the place of which I spoke to you. Behold, my messenger shall go before you, and in the day of my visitation, then I will visit on them their sin.' Then Yahweh struck the people down because they had used the calf which Aaron made." Chapter 33. Yahweh spoke to Moses, "Go up, hence, you and the people whom you brought up from the land of Egypt, to the land about which I swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, saying, 'To your seed shall I give it, and I will send before you my messenger. I will drive out the Canaanite, the Amorite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, and I shall bring you into a land gushing with milk and honey. For I shall not go up among you, for you are a stiff-necked people, lest I should finish you on the way.' When the people heard this evil word, they mourned, and no man set his ornaments on him. For Yahweh had said to Moses, 'Say to the sons of Israel, you stiff-necked people, if for one moment I should go up among you, I would finish you. And now take down your ornaments off you, that I may know what I should do to you.' So the sons of Israel despoiled themselves of their own ornaments from Mount Horeb onward. As for Moses, he took the tent and pitched it outside the camp, far from the camp. And he called it the tent of appointment. And it came to be that everyone seeking Yahweh went forth to the tent of appointment which was outside the camp. Also it came to be, as Moses went forth to the tent, all the people rose and stationed themselves, each man at the opening of his tent, and looked after Moses until he entered the tent. It came to be, as Moses entered the tent, that the cloud column descended and stood at the opening of the tent, and he spoke with Moses. When all the people saw the cloud column standing at the opening of the tent, all the people rose and bowed themselves down, each man at the opening of his tent. So Yahweh spoke to Moses face to face, just as a man speaks to his associate. When he returned to the camp, then his minister, Joshua, son of Nun, a youth, did not remove himself from the midst of the tent. Moses said to Yahweh, "See, you are saying to me, 'Bring up this people,' but you have not let me know whom you shall send with me. Yet you have said, 'I know you by name,' and moreover you have found grace in my eyes. And now I pray, if I have found grace in your eyes, let me know, I pray, your way, that I may know you and that I may find grace in your eyes. Consider that this nation is your people." And he said, "My presence, shall it go that I may give rest to you?" So he said to him, "If your presence is not going, do not bring us up from here. Whereby shall it be known indeed that I find grace in your eyes, I and your people? Is it not by your going with us that we may be distinguished, I and your people, from all the peoples who are on the surface of the ground?" Yahweh said to Moses, "Moreover, this matter of which you have spoken I shall do, for you find grace in my eyes, and I know you by name. Now he said, show me, I pray, your glory. And he said, I shall pass all my goodness before you and proclaim my name, Yahweh, before you. I will be gracious to whom I am being gracious, and will show compassion to whom I am showing compassion. He also said, you cannot see my face, for no human shall see me and live. Then Yahweh said, behold, there is a place by me, and you will station yourself on the rock. So it will come to be when my glory passes by, that I will place you in a fissure of the rock. And I will overshadow you with my palm until I pass by. Then I will take away my palm, and you will see my back, yet my face shall not appear. Chapter 34. Yahweh said to Moses, carve for yourself 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and I will write on the tablets the words which came to be on the first tablets which you broke. Be ready tomorrow morning, and you will ascend in the morning to Mount Sinai and station yourself for me there on the summit of the mountain. No man shall ascend with you. Indeed, let no man be seen in all the mountain. Moreover, the flock and the herd must not be grazing toward that mountain. So he carved 2 stone tablets like the first ones. And Moses rose early in the morning and ascended to Mount Sinai, just as Yahweh had instructed him, and took in his hands the 2 stone tablets. Then Yahweh descended in a cloud and stationed himself with him there, and proclaimed the name of Yahweh. Now Yahweh passed by before his face and proclaimed, Yahweh, Yahweh El, who is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, and abundant with benignity and truth, preserving benignity to thousands, bearing with depravity, transgression, and sin. Yet he is not holding innocent, nay innocent, but visiting the depravity of the fathers on the sons and on the sons' sons, on the 3rd and on the 4th generation. Then Moses hastened, bowed his head toward the earth, bowed himself down, and said, I pray, if I find grace in your eyes, my Lord, I pray, let my Lord go among us, for they are a stiff-necked people, and you will pardon our depravity and our sin, and you will gain us as an allotment. Then he said, behold, I am contracting a covenant. In front of all your people shall I do marvels which have not been created on the entire earth or among any of the nations. So all the people among whom you are will see the handiwork of Yahweh, for fear inspiring is that which I am doing with you. Observe for yourself what I am instructing you today. Behold me driving out from your presence the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite. Guard yourself lest you contract a covenant with the dwellers of the land to which you are entering, lest it become a trap among you. For their altars shall you break down, and their monuments shall you break, and their Asherah poles shall you cut down. For you shall not bow yourself down to another El, for Yahweh, jealous is his name. He is a jealous El. Lest you contract a covenant with the dweller of the land, when they prostitute after their Elohim, and sacrifice to their Elohim, and lest one call to you, and you eat of his sacrifice. And you would take of his daughters for your sons, so that his daughters would prostitute after their Elohim, and cause your sons to prostitute after their Elohim. Molten Elohim you shall not make for yourself. The festival of unleavened bread shall you observe 7 days. You shall eat unleavened bread, just as I have instructed you for the appointed time in the month of Abib. For in the month of Abib you came forth from Egypt. Every one opening up the womb is mine. Every one of your male cattle, the one opening up of the kine and of the flockling. Yet the male opening up of the donkey you shall ransom with a flockling. And if you should not ransom it, then you will break its neck. Every firstborn of your sons you shall ransom, and none shall appear before me empty-handed. 6 days shall you serve, and in the 7th day you shall cease. In plowing time and in harvest shall you cease. The festival of weeks shall you observe for yourself, the first fruits of the wheat harvest, and the festival of the ingathering at the revolution of the year. 3 times in the year shall every male of yours appear before the Lord Yahweh, Elohim of Israel. For I shall evict nations from your presence, and I will widen your boundary. No man shall covet your land when you go up to appear before Yahweh your Elohim 3 times in the year. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with what is leavened, nor shall the sacrifice of the Passover festival lodge unto the morning. The beginning of the first fruits of your ground shall you bring to the house of Yahweh your Elohim. You shall not cook a kid in the milk of its mother. Yahweh said to Moses, write for yourself these words, For at the bidding of these words, I contract with you a covenant and with Israel. And he came to be there before Yahweh 40 days and 40 nights. Bread he did not eat, and water he did not drink. Thus he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant, the 10 words. It came to be when Moses descended from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the testimony in Moses' hands, when he descended from the mount, that Moses did not realize that the skin of his face gleamed because of his speaking to him. Then Aaron and all the sons of Israel saw Moses, and behold, the skin of his face gleamed. So they feared to come close to him. Yet Moses called to them, and Aaron and all the princes in the congregation returned to him, and Moses spoke to them. Afterward all the sons of Israel came close to him, and he instructed them in all that Yahweh had spoken with him on Mount Sinai. When Moses finished speaking with them, then he put a covering on his face. Yet whenever Moses entered before Yahweh to speak with him, he took away the covering until he went forth. When he came forth, then he spoke to the sons of Israel that which he was instructed. And the sons of Israel saw the face of Moses, that the skin of Moses' face gleamed. Yet Moses restored the covering on his face until he entered to speak with him. Chapter 35. Then Moses assembled the whole congregation of the sons of Israel and said to them, These are the words which Yahweh instructs you to do them. 6 days shall work be done, yet on the 7th day there shall come to be for you a holy Sabbath of cessation to Yahweh. Everyone doing work on it shall be put to death. You shall not consume anything with fire in all your dwellings on the Sabbath day. Thus Moses spoke to the whole congregation of the sons of Israel, saying, This is the word which Yahweh instructs, saying, Take a heave offering to Yahweh from what you have. Everyone willing in his heart shall bring Yahweh's heave offering, gold, silver, and copper, blue, purple, and double-dipped crimson, cambric and goat's hair, reddened ram's hides and azure hides and acacia wood, oil for the luminary and aromatics for the anointing oil and for the incense of spices, stones of onyx and setting stones for the ephod and for the breastplate. Every one wise of heart among you shall come and make all that Yahweh has instructed. The tabernacle, its tent and its cover, its links and its hollow tapers, its bars, its columns and its sockets, the coffer and its poles, the propitiatory shelter and the portiere curtain, the table, its poles, all its furnishings and the bread of the presence, the lampstand for the luminary, all its furnishings, its lamps and the oil for the luminary, the altar of incense and its poles, the anointing oil and the incense of spices, the opening portiere for the opening of the tabernacle, the altar of ascent offering and the copper grate which is for it, its poles and all its furnishings, the laver and its post, the slung sheets of the court, its columns, its sockets and the portiere of the court gate, the pegs of the tabernacle, the pegs of the court and their cords, the colored garments to minister in the holy place, the holy garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments of his sons to serve as priests. Now the whole congregation of the sons of Israel went forth from before Moses. Then every man whose heart prompted him entered, and everyone whose spirit made him willing brought Yahweh's heave offering for the work of the tent of appointment and for all its service and for the holy garments. The men entered along with their wives, all with a willing heart. They brought clasps and pendants and rings and plaited ornaments, every article of gold. So did every man who would wave a wave offering of gold to Yahweh. And every man with whom was found blue, purple, and double-dipped crimson, cambric and goat's hair, reddened ram's hides and azure hides, they brought them. All raising up a heave offering of silver and copper, brought Yahweh's heave offering. All with whom was found acacia wood for all the work of the service, they brought it. Every woman wise of heart spun with her hands, and they brought the spinning, the blue, the purple, the double-dipped crimson, and the cambric. All the wives whose heart prompted them with wisdom spun the goat's hair. The princes, they brought the onyx stones and the setting stones for the ephod and for the breastplate, also the aromatics and the oil for the luminary, and for the anointing oil and for the incense of spices. Every man and woman whose heart made them willing to bring for all the work which Yahweh had instructed to do by the hand of Moses. So the sons of Israel brought it as a voluntary offering to Yahweh. Moses said to the sons of Israel, See, Yahweh has called by name Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the stock of Judah, and he is filling him with the spirit of Elohim, with wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge, and with all workmanship, even to design designs, for work in gold, in silver, and in copper, and as a lapidary for setting stones, and as an artificer in wood for work with all workmanship of designs. And the ability to direct he put into his heart, for him and Aholiab, son of Ahisamach of the stock of Dan. He filled them with wisdom of heart to do all the work of the artificer and brocade designer and embroiderer in blue, in purple, in double-dipped crimson, and in cambric and weaving, executors of all work, and designers of designs. Chapter 36. So Bezalel and Aholiab will work, and every man wise of heart, in whom Yahweh put wisdom and understanding, to know how to do all the work of the service of the holy place, according to all that Yahweh had instructed. Then Moses called to Bezalel and to Aholiab, and to every man wise of heart, to whom Yahweh had given wisdom in his heart, everyone whose heart prompted him to come near to the work to do it. So they took from before Moses the entire heave offering which the sons of Israel brought for the work of the service of the holy place, to do it. And still they brought to him voluntary offerings morning by morning. Then all the wise came, the ones doing all the work of the holy place, man by man, from his work which they were doing. And they spoke to Moses, saying, The people have brought more than sufficient for the service of the work which Yahweh had instructed to do it. So Moses instructed, and they caused a voice to pass in the camp, saying, Let not man or woman do further work for the heave offering of the holy place. Thus the people were forbidden to bring more, since the work brought came to be sufficient for them for the entire work, to do it, and to have surplus. Then all the wise of heart among those doing the work made the tabernacle with 10 sheets of corded cambric, and blue, purple, and double-dipped crimson. With cherubim, in the handiwork of a designer, he made them. The length of one sheet was 28 cubits, and the width 4 cubits for one sheet. One measure was for all the sheets, and he joined 5 of the sheets one to another, and the 5 other sheets he joined one to another. He made loops of blue on the hem of the one sheet at the end at the joining, and so he made in the hem of the endmost sheet at the second joining. 50 loops he made in one sheet, and 50 loops he made in the end of the sheet which was at the second joining, for the loops to be receiving one with the other. And he made 50 links of gold, and joined the sheets one to another by the links, and the tabernacle came to be one. Then he made sheets of goat's hair for the tent over the tabernacle. 11 sheets he made them. The length of one sheet was 30 cubits, and 4 cubits was the width of one sheet, one measure for the 11 sheets. And he joined 5 of the sheets by themselves, and 6 of the sheets by themselves. Then he made 50 loops on the hem of the endmost sheet at the joining, and he made 50 loops on the hem of the sheet at the second joining. And he made 50 copper links to join the tent, for it to come to be one. He also made a cover for the tent of reddened ram's hides, and a cover of azure hides above. Then he made the hollow tapers for the tabernacle of standing acacia boards. 10 cubits was the length of one hollow taper, and 1.5 cubits the width of one hollow taper. There were 2 sloping sideboards to one hollow taper being projected one to another. Thus he did for all the hollow tapers of the tabernacle. And he made the hollow tapers for the tabernacle, 20 hollow tapers for the Negeb edge southward, and 40 sockets of silver he made under the 20 hollow tapers, 2 sockets under one hollow taper for its 2 sloping sideboards, and 2 sockets under another hollow taper for its 2 sloping sideboards. Also for the second angle wall of the tabernacle for the north edge, he made 20 hollow tapers, with their 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one hollow taper, and 2 sockets under another hollow taper. Yet for the flanks of the tabernacle westward he made 6 hollow tapers, and 2 hollow tapers he made for the cut-out corners of the tabernacle in the flanks. Then couplings came to be below, and they came to be coupled together to its top by one ring. Thus he did for the 2 of them, for the 2 cut-out corners. There came to be 8 hollow tapers and their silver sockets, 16 sockets, 2 sockets for each, 2 sockets under one hollow taper. Then he made bars of acacia wood, 5 for the hollow tapers of one angle wall of the tabernacle, also 5 bars for the hollow tapers of the second angle wall of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the hollow tapers of the tabernacle for the flanks westward. And he made the middle bar in the midst of the hollow tapers to reach from end to end. The hollow tapers he overlaid with gold, and their rings he made of gold, as housings for the bars, and he overlaid the bars with gold. He made the curtain of blue, purple, double-dipped crimson, and corded cambric. In the handiwork of a designer he made it with cherubim. He made for it 4 columns of acacia, and he overlaid them with gold, with their hooks of gold, and he cast for them 4 sockets of silver. Then he made a portiere for the opening of the tent of blue, purple, double-dipped crimson, and corded cambric, the handiwork of an embroiderer. As for its 5 columns and their hooks, he overlaid their heads and their connections with gold, and their 5 sockets were of copper. Chapter 37. Bezalel made the coffer of acacia boards, 2 cubits and a half its length, and a cubit and a half its width, and a cubit and a half its rise. He overlaid it with pure gold inside and outside, and made for it a flange of gold round about. He cast 4 rings of gold for it on its 4 footings, with 2 rings on its one angle wall, and 2 rings on its second angle wall. Then he made poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. And he inserted the poles in the rings on the angle walls of the coffer to carry the coffer. He also made the propitiatory shelter of pure gold, 2 cubits and a half its length, and a cubit and a half its width. Then he made 2 cherubim of gold. He hammered them a stiff shell of 1 piece with the 2 ends of the propitiatory shelter, 1 cherub from this end and 1 cherub from that end. From the propitiatory shelter he made the cherubim of 1 piece with its 2 ends. The cherubim came to be with spreading wings above, overshadowing with their wings over the propitiatory shelter, with their faces each to his fellow. Toward the propitiatory shelter the faces of the cherubim came to be. Then he made the table of acacia boards, 2 cubits its length, and a cubit its width, and a cubit and a half its rise. He overlaid it with pure gold, and made for it a flange of gold round about. He also made for it a border of a handbreadth round about, and made a flange of gold for its border round about. Then he cast for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings on the 4 edges, which were for its 4 feet. The rings came to correspond with the border, housings for the poles to carry the table. He made the poles of acacia wood, and overlaid them with gold to carry the table. He also made the furnishings which were on the table, its dishes, its spoons, its sacrificial bowls, and the chalices with which libations were made, of pure gold. He also made the lampstand of pure gold. Of a stiff shell he made the lampstand, its stem and its tube. Its cones, its spheres, and its buds were of 1 piece with it, and 6 tubes came forth from its sides, 3 tubes of the lampstand from one of its sides, and 3 tubes of the lampstand from its second side. 3 almond-shaped cones were on the one tube, a sphere and a bud, and 3 almond-shaped cones on the other tube, a sphere and a bud. Thus for the 6 tubes coming forth from the lampstand. On the lampstand were 4 almond-shaped cones, its spheres and its buds, and a sphere under 2 of the tubes from it, and a sphere under 2 of the tubes from it, and a sphere under 2 of the tubes from it, so for the 6 tubes coming forth from the lampstand. Their spheres and their tubes were of 1 piece with it, all of it of 1 stiff shell of pure gold. He also made its 7 lamps and its snuffers and its firepans of pure gold. Of a talent of pure gold he made it and all its furnishings. Then he made the incense altar of acacia boards, a cubit its length and a cubit its width. It was square, and its rise was 2 cubits. Its horns were of 1 piece with it. He overlaid it with pure gold, its top surface and around its sidewalls and its horns, and made for it a flange of gold round about. 2 rings of gold he made for it beneath its flange, on its 2 angle walls on its 2 sides, for housings for the poles, to carry it with them. He made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. He also made the holy anointing oil and the incense of pure spices, the handiwork of a compounder. Chapter 38. Then he made the altar of ascent offering of acacia boards, 5 cubits its length and 5 cubits its width. It was square, and its rise was 3 cubits. He made its horns on its 4 corners. Its horns were of 1 piece with it, and he overlaid it with copper. He also made all the furnishings of the altar, the pots and the shovels and the sprinkling bowls, the forks and the firepans, all its furnishings he made of copper. He made for the altar a grate, a handiwork of a copper net, beneath its encompassment from below into its middle. And he cast 4 rings on the 4 ends of the copper grate as housings for the poles. He made the poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with copper. And he inserted the poles in the rings on the angle walls of the altar to carry it with them. Hollow of planks, he made it. Then he made the laver of copper and its post of copper from the mirrors of the women stationed for service who enlisted at the entrance opening of the tent of appointment. Then he made the court. For the Negeb edge southward, the slung sheets of the court were of corded cambric, 100 cubits, with their 20 columns and their 20 copper sockets, the hooks of the columns and their connections of silver. And for the north edge, 100 cubits, with their 20 columns and their 20 sockets of copper, the hooks of the columns and their connections of silver. For the west edge, the slung sheets were 50 cubits with their 10 columns and their 10 sockets, the hooks of the columns and their connections of silver. And for the eastward edge, toward the sunrise, 50 cubits. Slung sheets of 15 cubits were for the one flank with their 3 columns and their 3 sockets. And for the second flank on this side, and on that side of the gate of the court, slung sheets of 15 cubits with their 3 columns and their 3 sockets. All the slung sheets of the court round about were of corded cambric. The sockets for the columns were of copper, the hooks of the columns and their connections of silver, and the overlay of their heads was silver. And they, all the columns of the court, were connected with silver. The portiere of the court gate was the handiwork of an embroiderer in blue, purple, double-dipped crimson, and corded cambric. 20 cubits was the length, and the rise in the width was 5 cubits, to correspond with the slung sheets of the court. Their columns were 4 and their sockets 4, of copper, their hooks of silver, and the overlay of their heads and their connections of silver. All the pegs for the tabernacle and for the court round about were copper. These are the notations as to the tabernacle of the testimony, which were noted down at the bidding of Moses, a service of the Levites under the hand of Ithamar son of Aaron the priest. As for Bezalel son of Uri, son of Hur of the stock of Judah, he made all that Yahweh had instructed Moses. With him was Aholiab, son of Ahisamach of the stock of Dan, an artificer and brocade designer and embroiderer in blue, in purple, in double-dipped crimson, and in cambric. All the gold which was used for the work and all the work of the holy place, namely the gold of the wave offering, came to be 29 talents and 730 shekels by the shekel of the holy place. The silver of those of the congregation who were mustered was 100 talents and 1,775 shekels by the shekel of the holy place, a bekah for a pole, half a shekel by the shekel of the holy place, for everyone passing over onto those mustered from 20 years old and upward, for 603,550 men. It came to be that the 100 talents of silver were for casting the sockets of the holy place and the sockets of the curtain, 100 sockets to 100 talents, a talent to a socket. The 1,775 shekels he made into hooks for the columns and overlaid their heads and made connections for them. The copper of the wave offering was 70 talents and 2,400 shekels. So he made with it the sockets of the opening of the tent of appointment, and the copper altar with the copper grate which was for it, and all the furnishings of the altar, and the sockets of the court round about, and the sockets of the gate of the court, and all the pegs of the tabernacle, and all the pegs of the court round about. Chapter 39. From the blue, the purple, and the double-dipped crimson, they made colored garments for ministering in the holy place. They made the holy garments which were for Aaron, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. He made the ephod of gold, blue, purple, double-dipped crimson, and corded cambric. They stamped the foils of gold, and he cut away wires to be worked into the midst of the blue, in the midst of the purple, in the midst of the double-dipped crimson, and in the midst of the cambric, the handiwork of a designer. Shoulder pieces they made for it, joining. On its 2 ends was it joined, and the design band of his ephod, which was on it, it was one piece with it, like its handiwork, of gold, blue, purple, double-dipped crimson, and corded cambric, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. They worked on the onyx stones, set round about with mountings of gold filigree, engraved as the engravings of a seal according to the names of the sons of Israel. And he placed them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod as memorial stones for the sons of Israel, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. Then he made the breastplate, the handiwork of a designer, like the handiwork of the ephod, of gold, blue, purple, double-dipped crimson, and corded cambric. Square it came to be when doubled. They made the breastplate a span its length and a span its width when doubled. They filled it with 4 rows of stones, a row of carnelian, peridot, and emerald, row 1, the second row of carbuncle, sapphire, and diamond, the third row of jacinth, agate, and amethyst, and the fourth row of topaz, onyx, and jasper, set round about with mountings of gold filigree in their fillings. The stones, they were 12, with the names of the sons of Israel according to their names, as the engravings of a seal, each one according to its name for the 12 tribes. They made on the breastplate boundaries of braid, a handiwork of rope of pure gold. They made 2 mountings of gold filigree and 2 rings of gold, and put the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. Then they put the 2 ropes of gold on the 2 rings on the ends of the breastplate, and the 2 ends of the 2 ropes they put on the 2 mountings. Thus they put them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod to its forefront view. They also made 2 rings of gold and placed them on the 2 ends of the breastplate, on its hem, which was across the ephod, inside. They made 2 rings of gold and put them on the 2 shoulder pieces of the ephod below its forefront, view to correspond with its joining above to the design band of the ephod. Then they laced the breastplate by its rings to the rings of the ephod with blue twine, to come to be over the design band of the ephod, so that the breastplate be not displaced from the ephod, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. He also made the robe of the ephod, the handiwork of a weaver, wholly of blue, with the slit of the robe in its midst like the slit of a coat of mail, with a hem around its slit, so that it be not torn. On the skirts of the robe they made pomegranates of blue, purple, double-dipped crimson, and corded cambric. They made bells of pure gold, and put the bells in the midst of the pomegranates on the skirts of the robe round about. In the midst of the pomegranates, a bell and a pomegranate on the skirts of the robe round about for ministering, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. Then they made the tunics of cambric, the handiwork of a weaver, for Aaron and for his sons, and the turban of cambric, and the beautiful caps of cambric, and the linen breeches of corded cambric, and the sash of corded cambric with blue, purple, and double-dipped crimson, the handiwork of an embroiderer, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. They also made the holy insignia blossom of pure gold, and wrote on it a writing like engravings of a seal, holy to Yahweh. And they put blue twine on it to put it on the turban above, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. Thus all the service of the tabernacle of the tent of appointment was finished. And the sons of Israel did according to all that Yahweh had instructed Moses. So they did. Then they brought the tabernacle to Moses, the tent and all its furnishings, its links, its hollow tapers, its bars and its columns and its sockets, also the cover of red and ram's hides, the cover of azure hides and the portiere curtain, the coffer of the testimony with its poles and the propitiatory shelter, the table with all its furnishings and the bread of the presence, the pure lampstand and its lamps, with the lamps in array, and all its furnishings and oil for the luminary, the golden altar, the anointing oil, the incense of spices, and the portiere for the opening of the tent, the copper altar and the copper grate which was for it, its poles and all its furnishings, the laver and its post, the slung sheets of the court with its columns and its sockets, the portiere for the court gate with its cords and its pegs, and all the furnishings for the service of the tabernacle, for the tent of appointment, the colored garments for ministering in the holy place, the holy garments for Aaron the priest, and the garments of his sons to serve as priests. According to all that Yahweh had instructed Moses, so the sons of Israel did all the service. When Moses saw all the work, behold, they had done it just as Yahweh had instructed. So had they done. And Moses blessed them. Chapter 40. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, On the first day of the month, in month 1, you shall set up the tabernacle of the tent of appointment. You will place there the coffer of the testimony and screen off the coffer with the curtain. You will bring the table and arrange its array and bring the lampstand and set up its lamps. Then you will put the golden altar for incense before the coffer of the testimony and place the portiere of the opening to the tabernacle. You will put the altar of a scent offering before the opening of the tabernacle of the tent of appointment And you will set the laver between the tent of appointment and the altar, and put water therein. You will set up the court round about, and put up the portiere of the court gate. You will take the anointing oil and anoint the tabernacle, and all that is in it, and hallow it and all its furnishings, that it will come to be holy. You will also anoint the altar of ascent, offering and all its furnishings, and hallow the altar, that the altar will come to be a holy of holies. And you will anoint the laver and its post, and hallow it. Then you will bring Aaron and his sons near to the opening of the tent of appointment, and wash them in water, and put the holy garments on Aaron, and anoint him and hallow him, that he serve as priest for me. And you shall bring his sons near, and you will put tunics on them, and anoint them just as you anointed their father, that they serve as priests for me. So it will come to be that their anointing is to bestow on them an Aeonian priesthood throughout their generations. Thus Moses did according to all that Yahweh had instructed him. So he did. Then it came to be on the first month in the second year since they went forth from Egypt, on day 1 of the month, that the tabernacle was set up. So Moses set up the tabernacle and laid its sockets, placed its hollow tapers, put in its bars, and set up its columns. Then he spread the tent over the tabernacle and placed the cover of the tent over it above, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. He took and bestowed the testimony into the coffer, placed the poles on the coffer, put the propitiatory shelter on the coffer above, brought the coffer into the tabernacle, and placed the portiere curtain so that it screened off the coffer of the testimony, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. He put the table in the tent of appointment at the flank of the tabernacle northward outside the curtain, and he arranged on it the array of bread before Yahweh, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. Then he placed the lampstand in the tent of appointment over against the table at the flank of the tabernacle toward the Negeb, and set up the lamps before Yahweh, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. He placed the golden altar in the tent of appointment before the curtain, and caused incense of spices to fume on it, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. Then he placed the portiere of the opening to the tabernacle. The altar of ascent offering he placed by the opening of the tabernacle of the tent of appointment, and he brought up on it the ascent offering and the approach present, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. He also placed the laver between the tent of appointment and the altar, and put water therein for washing. From it, Moses and Aaron and his sons washed their hands and their feet. When they entered into the tent of appointment and came near to the altar, they washed, just as Yahweh had instructed Moses. Then he set up the court round about the tabernacle and the altar, and he put up the portiere of the court gate. When Moses had finished all the work, and the cloud covered the tent of appointment, then the glory of Yahweh, it filled the tabernacle, so that Moses was unable to enter into the tent of appointment, for the cloud tabernacled on it, and the glory of Yahweh, it filled the tabernacle. Whenever the cloud ascended above the tabernacle, the sons of Israel journeyed in all their journeyings. Yet if the cloud was not taken up, then they would not journey until the day it was taken up. For the cloud of Yahweh was over the tabernacle by day, and fire it came to be in it by night for the eyes of all the house of Israel in all their journeyings.